IB Nation, welcome back to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Friday. It's been an awesome Friday so far. We got to watch Notre Dame's first spring practice earlier today. Brian and I and Vince were up top. Angela was down taking some photo and video. And before we dive too much into it, Gideon Rosa was out helping out. It was cool to see him today as well.
Newest member of Irish Breakdown, so he's going to be doing some video for us this year, which was awesome to see. Very awesome to see.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to see him. I hadn't seen him since the Texas A&M tailgate, so it was awesome to be in there, and it was cool to see him. But today, folks, we have a lot to cover, and we're going to be talking about Notre Dame's first spring practice, and we're really separating this into two different buckets. Part one of today's show, we're going to be talking about the offense. A lot of good things, a lot of new things that we saw. We confirmed a lot of things that we had heard and things that we believed that we were going to see. And then in part two of today's show, we're going to be talking about the defense and what we saw from them. Impressions, that's the side of the ball with the most new coaches. So lots of takeaways there. And then we're going to wrap everything up today. Junior Day is actually happening tomorrow. And we're going to be giving a recruiting preview to some of just the high-octane guys that are going to be on campus this weekend. So, Brian, I'm ready to dive into this thing, man. We saw a lot of good today. A lot of good.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, just big picture, Trev, the first thing you notice is somebody asked me on the board. I'm going to try to pull up the question, but somebody said how basically how pumped we are, and my answer was basically like more pumped even than I was yesterday. Let me find my answer because I'm guessing. Let me see here. How pumped are you for this team? Was the question, and I said more pumped than I was yesterday. Like, we had high hopes for this football team coming in, and I would say that I'm even like, it's one day, right? One practice, and I don't want to spend the next 2 hours talking about qualifiers of just one practice. We all understand it's just one practice, right? But from that one practice, I mean, this team was better than I thought they were going to be in a lot of different ways, not just, and then also not even that they're better in certain areas, but like just seeing the offensive line now move together, like we've envisioned what we hope it could be, but now to see it. And, you think that Tay Johnson has a chance to be better than he was last year. And then you see him do it in one practice, you think, well, I think CJ is going to probably be a little stronger this year. And then you see the zip come. I mean, so just things that we thought we'd see that got confirmed, but then there's some other areas where it's like, okay, the freshman DB class is every bit as good as advertised, but y'all probably won't guess who the best one was today. You know what I mean? And I'll just say it like Joey O'Brien was really good today. That ain't the answer. So it's going to be fun to talk about all this, Trev, but we were talking about how excited we were about the receivers. We'll get into that. It's even deeper than we thought because a couple guys that had really good days today that we hadn't talked a whole lot about. So I'm excited, Trev, to get into it. Excited to talk about it. And we'll kick things off with the offense. I think the first thing that you notice about this offense, Trev, is this is still a really fast offense. And obviously not having Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, with all due respect to Nolan James Jr. and Jonas Walton, they're not as fast as those guys. They still move. But when you just look at the tight end position, the wide receiver position, you're like, this team can really move. And I think it's a more athletic-looking offensive line as well. So I'm excited about what we saw today. It's a work in progress. If they had to go play a game tomorrow, you wouldn't be necessarily thrilled about it. But guess what? Would feel that way for just about everybody else kicking off spring practice right now. So I'm looking forward to diving into this, Trev, and there's no better place to kick it off than the quarterback position.
Absolutely. I mean, all throughout the day, practice just seemed a lot cleaner. It didn't seem as new because a lot of the young guys that were stepping into roles last year are now veterans. They've played and started for an entire season throughout 2025. And obviously, we, to your point, have to start with the quarterback position. There's no battle for who's going to start under center for Notre Dame. And one of the questions that I got to ask James Flanagan was, hey, what does that feel like? You got here in June of last year amidst a quarterback battle. Now you have your guy. What does that do for just kind of the morale of the team? What does that do for the offense? it was very clean today. You mentioned it, Brian, watching him just even in warmups. I think you were the first person who brought it up when we were sitting up top. You're like, I think CJ has a little bit more zip. And I'm not going to lie. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, they're warming up. I was like, okay, let's check this out. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's coming out different.
Yeah. Quarterback room overall, I thought looked. There's a lot of arm talent in there, a lot of arm strength in there. There's a huge gap between the number one and the next couple guys, which you'd hope when you have arguably the best returning quarterback in the country. You'd kind of hope that he looks way better than the redshirt freshman and the freshman.
Yeah.
I thought CJ had a good day and got picked a couple times, which I've said this a million times. I don't care a whole lot about interceptions early on in practice. The one interception was it was funny listening to Coach Denbrock up there in the press conference. He's like, I knew exactly how today was going to go. He goes, because I guess in the football school that they do, you can't throw the ball, so you're making reads, you're going through things, but you can't have a football. You can't do anything. And so he's like, I knew CJ was going to come out and just let it rip today and throw the ball downfield all day. And he did. There's a couple times that he overthrew a backside seam route, which he overthrew it because he had to, because if he didn't overthrow it, Jalen Sneed was going to pick it off. So he throws it high, sails a little bit high, and then guess who's there to pick it off? Tay Johnson. Tries to throw a go ball to Jordan Faison on the outside. The ball leaves CJ's hand. Tay Johnson's on the hash. When the play's over, the ball's in Tay Johnson's hand. I mean, you had a couple of those, but you also had a lot of really good decision-making from CJ, a lot of accuracy, a lot of zip on the football. And, the offense had its fair share of wins. The defense had its fair share of wins. Overall, CJ sticker. He's clearly put on some armor, which is going to be important to get through a full season next year. He was what we thought he was. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on CJ Carr. Day one, I think he was what he thought he was. There was a little bit of a scuffle in practice. It's not I don't care about the scuffle. That's football. You know what I mean? But what I liked was like the first guy there to kind of get in between and separate was CJ Carr. Now, part of me as the quarterback's coach, I'm like, dude, stay the heck back and put your right hand behind your back when you're doing that. But it just was kind of like you could see like his hit. He's clearly taking on a leadership role, and that was good to see. The number 2 quarterback today was Blake Hebert, Trev, and he had a very interesting day. The first thing, I was talking with Tim O'Malley about this, and I said, if you didn't have receivers to throw, and he's just dropping back and just throwing it wherever he wants to with nobody around, you're like, dude, that ball comes out nice. It zips, explodes out of his hand. He's got a strong arm. He's got a real quick, compact release. It looks good, right? There's a lot to like about Blake. Then, when you put receivers in there, it's like that ball was 8 yards too far. There was one throw, Trev. He almost threw it out of the building. He missed so far on the go right. He almost threw it out of the building. And he'll have it, but then he'll come back 2 throws later and just bang a dig route. It's beautiful. So that's really going to be the big thing for Blake moving forward is consistency is going to be incredibly important for him. He's also just day one. You've got to be able to be a little bit better, continue to get better with, progressing things. But there's a lot of physical tools there with Blake Hebert, but he's really going to have to harness those tools. And look, this is day one. He was probably amped up. There's a lot of pressure on him. This is the first time he's had a practice where it's like, dude, you're kind of the next man in. And I think he kind of overthrew a few times. I don't think Blake Hebert's going to go out there and practice 7 and miss on a go route so far outside that it almost bounces and goes through the doors. I don't think we're going to see that again. I think that was his first or second throw of the day in one-on-ones. I just think he was a little jazzed. I think he was a little fired up. I think he was a little bit over, and he's going to have to harness that. But, when he throws it well, Trev, it's nice. It really comes out nice. It's just that consistency is going to be a big thing for Blake.
Yeah, absolutely. Blake Hebert today was kind of like when you see younger players of like when the light bulb goes on, like the physical tools are there. There'll be a couple of guys that I talk about on defense that are that way, but that's how I felt about Hebert today. Is physically, he's an impressive kid, but there are some things processing-wise, being settled, things felt a little rushed at times, and I think it led to some overthrows, some underthrows, leading somebody almost out of the building versus throwing it 2 yards behind somebody. But nonetheless, the tools were all there, and that's the biggest thing with Blake.
The receiver did not see the ball on that go route. That's how bad it was missed. Like he was like looking up, like, where's the ball? But again, that wasn't that bad of a miss was an anomaly. It's just making the point that like I think Blake was a little too extra today with some of that stuff. Even in RVA, he's sailing balls, and it just looked like I think he was trying to win the Super Bowl with every throw. You know what I mean? It's just like, just relax, just relax, let that sucker go. You've got a great arm. You don't need to put extra mustard on a seam throw, bro. You've got a great arm. You've got a really live arm. Just let it rip. Just nice and clean, nice compact, step properly and things like that. Because I think what was happening is there was a few times it looked like he was trying to put some sauce on it. And when Blake, the kind of throwing motion he has, when he tries to put sauce on it, it's so obvious that his elbow dips like this and the ball comes out and sails. When he relaxes a little bit, just keep your nice little, your nice little compact throwing motion, and that nose will stay down and you'll be good. So I think he's going to be okay, but he had a rough first day, and he'll have to continue to improve. But like I said though, Trev, but the arm talent is really impressive. Like the arm power is really impressive.
Agreed completely. And some of it, too, is looking at it with context. We're also watching Blake Hebert throw after we watch C.J. Carr throw, the guy that we know is the solidified number one quarterback. That's what, I've been already seeing it on Twitter about, the vast difference between what the QB2 battle is going to look like, looking at it from C.J. Carr. Let's not forget, C.J. Carr is one of, to your point that you said earlier, one of the best returning quarterbacks in the country, if not the best. He's currently the favorite on FanDuel to win the Heisman Trophy. Watching somebody who's a redshirt freshman come in and then throw immediately after him, it's going to look a little bit different. But I'm with you, man. The tools are there.
I also think it's bizarre that people are spending as much time talking about the backup quarterback on day one as we've seen, which is whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But, yeah, that's a little weird to me. But it is what it is. Noah Grubbs, I think today, Trev, had looked like a freshman. He was – they threw Noah Grubbs in the deep end and like, hey, let's see if you can swim. And at first, he didn't look like he could swim, but you could just see Noah as he got more comfortable. He's got a really live arm. Like he threw a really bad pick six. Threw a Cam Williams was running an out cut. Nickel just did a really nice curl, zone flat drop. He doesn't see it at all. Throws the ball. It looked good until Nick Reddish caught it and ran it back for a touchdown. You know what I mean? But like it looked good. But the thing you saw about Noah today is the ball really comes out nicely. Like he's got a really live arm. Somebody asked, it was funny, somebody asked Mike Denbrock, like if they were surprised at how well he threw the ball. And he was like, no, that's kind of what we, like that's why we recruited him here. Like I don't know where this notion that Noah Grubbs couldn't throw or, couldn't play came from. But I think you saw today, even with some of the mistakes, that he throws a really pretty ball. Noah shows a pretty good natural feel for when to gas it and when to feather it, when to layer it. The big difference that I saw today between Noah and Blake is Blake, number one, clearly knows the offense better, but Blake also will be willing to take the check down. Sometimes I thought maybe too much, but I'd rather you take the check down, and if you're not confident, take the check down, don't force it downfield. Where when Noah wasn't sure, he'd still try to force it downfield and it would fall incomplete. But what you also saw from Noah was Noah has a better feel for ball placement. He understands, like there was a couple comebacks that Noah drove low and away against really tight coverage. There was about 3 balls that Noah completed today where you're like, dude, that was put where only his receiver had a chance to make a play. So, like, that was good to see, too. So, I thought Blake and Noah both did some good things and both looked like guys who've never played a meaningful down in college football at times. I mean, and that's to be expected. So, overall, solid day from the quarterback position. And definitely looking forward to seeing those two guys are two players that I'm really looking forward to seeing what they look like at the last practice. We get full access to the whole practice. Like, we're not going to get to see a ton from those guys in the 4 periods of the next couple practices we get to. That we only get 4 periods. We'll see like individual work and stuff, maybe some one-on-ones. The next full practice we'll get to is not going to be until the week before the Blue Gold game. I'm really curious to see what kind of growth Blake and Noah make by then. But the nice thing is They're well put together kids, and they've got really live arms. Really live arms.
Agreed. Agreed completely. The last thing I'll say about the quarterbacks, Noah Grubb surprised me a little bit. Now, obviously, today was non-contact. They didn't even have shoulder pads on. Well, depending on the guy that you ask, it was non-contact today, but we'll get to that here in a little
Somebody
bit.
forgot to tell Don Schuler that.
Yeah, that's for sure. But obviously, it was non-contact today. But Noah had a little bit more athletically than I thought he was going to have. There were some times where he would scramble out of the pocket where there were times I know in high school he would be able to make plays with his legs. I kind of attributed a lot of that to just he might just be the best guy on the field. And he's just a superior athlete at that level. But there were times where, he was beating Teddy Rizak to the corner. He did that once on a read option. So there were a couple of things in there that I was like, okay, kind of stood out. All three of the Notre Dame quarterbacks are sneaky athletic, like more athletic than what you would think. But obviously they do their best work from the pocket. But with that, Brian, they're going to need a pocket to throw from. And we saw a lot from the offensive line today that got us going.
Well, first of all, I think that the nice thing for me that I thought benefited me and made me look good is the intel that we put out about the offensive line was absolutely what we saw today. Yeah. Not just who was going to play where, but even more so how certain guys looked. But, the intel we got is that we were going to see Anthony Knapp kicked inside the guard and Will Black at left tackle and Gerby Lambert kicked out to right tackle, Sullivan Absher right guard, and then you've got Joe Wadding at center, and that's exactly what we saw today. Now, I'm not saying they won't do other things with the first-team offensive line moving forward, but that was all we saw in the first-team offensive line today. The only adjustment we saw is there were a few plays where during inside run where you saw Cam Herron getting a couple snaps with the first-team offensive line, but for the most part, it was Joe Wadding today. And it looked good. We'll just kind of, you want to work left to right with the first team O-line, and then we'll talk about kind of what we saw from the second group. Left tackle, somebody just asked, was it weird seeing Anthony Knapp inside? Not at all. It looked natural. And that was kind of what was good to see is, I thought Will Black looked good. They went to team before we saw one-on-ones, O-line, D-line one-on-ones. We actually saw a team period. And the offensive line, it was them. I mean, it was against Logan Thomas and Keon Keeley, and I think it was it like Francis Brew and Armo Mukam, I think, something like that. They gave him plenty of time to throw. I thought Will looked real comfortable playing tackle. They get down to one-on-ones in his first one-on-one rep. He puts his head down a little bit and just gets whooped by Logan Thomas. But then the next two reps he wins. He easily beats Keon Keeley. Like, he has a really nice rep. And there's even a play earlier, like in a team period, the final team period, where Boubacar comes off the edge and Will lunges at him too early. And Boubacar gets to his outside. Last year, with all due respect to the tackle they had last year, that's a sack. But Will's so long and athletic that he was able to kind of recover and get enough of a piece of Boubacar to ride him out and allowed CJ to step into the pocket, dump it off to Nolan James. I think that's the one where Nolan had like the behind his back one-handed catch. Wait till we get to Nolan James, y'all. But like even then, it's like, okay, you can fix that stuff, but what you can't teach is how it's being long enough to recover and athletic enough to recover and get to Boubacar. But they, but overall, I thought he looked comfortable out there. He looked good. The run game was fine. I thought Will Black, by the way, somebody asked, is number 74. I thought Anthony Knapp looked very natural inside. The thing that you could see, there's an adjustment period for him in that everything happens so much quicker at guard than it does tackle. And there's a couple times where he would hit and then stop his feet because it just hit him so quick. And then as the practice got deeper and deeper, you could see him kind of driving his feet a little bit better. That'll be something that I'll have to kind of work through a little bit. But the movement he got was good. He was physical. Tion Gray tried to just beat him with a bull rush in one-on-ones, and Anthony just stoned him, just locked him in place because he got real good pad level. And I don't think Tion realized how strong Anthony Knapp is. Like, okay, he's thinking, I'm going to bully this little 6'4", 300-pound guy. I'm going to bully him. And then he was like, nah, bro, I ain't that guy. Just locked him down. He got beat by Jason Onye one time on just a really nice, quick inside move. But other than that, I thought Anthony looked really natural inside. I thought Sullivan Absher had a really steady day today. And just overall so when they got movement in the run game, and I take this somewhat with a grain of salt because they're running the ball with no pads on. Yeah. So the defense is going to come off differently on a day like today than they will when the full pads are on. But when you saw really good movement, it was to the right side. And the thing that surprised me is how well Sully and Gerby worked together on the right side. Like they were running some stunts where they were bringing a defender across. So from outside Gerby inside and trying to cross Sully's face and then loop somebody, a blitzer would come outside and Gerby passed it off perfectly. Sully's got his eyes up, sees it, picks it up, stones it. Gerby takes the blitzer and you're like, beautiful. That's like, mid-season form of blitz pickup. So that was really good to see. And Gerby Lambert's an absolute monster. Oh my gosh. He was without a doubt their most impressive looking lineman today. There was a rep where Boubacar tries to beat him off the edge with speed and Gerby just sets bam, bam, bam. And so he's beat. And so then Boubacar tries to like bend and get around like he did to linemen all year last year. And Gerby literally just with his length just pushes him and face first into the turf. And you're like, okay. And they tried to beat him with speed, couldn't do it. They tried to beat him with inside moves, they couldn't do it. Gerby was really good today.
Yeah.
He looks so natural at tackle, Trev. So natural at tackle. So those guys were good. Joe was a bit up and down, had some wins in one-on-ones, but also got beat a couple times. Like, I got my one-on-one notes right here. He got beat by Armel Mukum on a ridiculous spin move, which I'll talk about later. Also got beat. Let me find the other one that he got beat by Tion Gray, Chris Burgess also beat him. So he's going to have to. The problem with Joe is Joe tends to stop his feet too much, and when he stops his feet, guys beat him. So he's going to have to learn to just keep moving his feet a little bit more. Cam Herron, I thought, moved his feet better, but Cam then lunges a little bit. So he's got to get a little bit more comfortable there. So. The young centers are going to have to keep working and keep improving. But overall, I thought they did a really nice job today, that first team offensive line. It looked, for the first time, really playing together with real football. You wouldn't have thought that. Think about this, Trev. Joe Otting is the only guy that took a snap in today's practice. He's the only guy that took a snap at a position where he started a game last year or primarily played in the games last year. Gerby had like 10 snaps at right tackle against Purdue. That's it. Will Black took snaps at right tackle and left guard last year. No snaps at left tackle. Sullivan Absher all hit. He took right guard snaps in the opener and then moved to left guard later in the year. And obviously Anthony Knapp took every single snap of his career so far at left tackle. You wouldn't have thought that this was a brand new remade offensive line the way that they played today. So first day down, very impressed with what I saw from the group. I'll say a little observation. I'm curious to see if this is true when the pads are on, but I did notice they were working a little bit more on vertical movement on some of their runs, which was something they definitely need to work on.
Yeah, I thought Sullivan Absher did a really good job of getting up to the second level when they had some run plays. To your point, take it with a grain of salt because they didn't even have shoulder pads on, let alone pants or anything like that. But I'm with you. I think natural is the best word used to describe the offensive line. Everybody looked comfortable, natural, comfortable, there were even moments in practice where we knew Anthony Knapp was going to be the left tackle, but it just didn't look completely natural. Will Black looked very natural out there. I thought Gerby was probably their best offensive lineman today. There was a play, it was their second team period, and Gerby Lambert combined with, I think it was Nolan James, had a beautiful blitz pickup on a Don Schuler. That thing was a thing of beauty. Gerby Lambert passed it off well. Adon Schuler tried to cut inside. Nolan James stonewalled him. It's exactly what you want to see, especially from a guy that's making spending his most meaningful time at right tackle for the first time in his career, really. So very, very promising to see that. Were there any, before we move on to the wide receiver position, any of the younger offensive linemen stick out to you?
Yeah. I thought one young guy that really impressed me was I thought Sullivan Garvin had a really good day. Like, he might have been the most consistently impressive center today. Now, again, he's going against the third team, not going against Francis Brew and Tion Gray and Jason Onye and guys like that. But he's powerful, and his snap to set quickness was really good today. I thought he was good. One of the end things we had in our intel was that Notre Dame is right now, I believe that they view Matty Augustine as the next man in at multiple spots. And so he played tackle and guard today. So it was very obvious. He's a physical kid. He's not as athletic as Will and Anthony and Gerby. That's noticeable. He's a little bit tighter hip than those guys, but he's very physical, very powerful. Had some good moments today, mixed it up a little bit with some people. I thought that was good. Grayson McHugh, when he knows what he's supposed to do, really athletic, moves very well, really good athletic skills. Charlie Tom impressed me with how well he moved today. He played some guard and tackle. He's still a skinny kid. He's a year or two away physically from being ready to go, but just the athletic skill really stood out. So that was good to see. Those are some of the younger guys that I thought had pretty good days today. It's very clear that the staff, Matty Augustine is a step above a lot of the other twos right now. And I think would be the guy that they're working to see, like, depending on who gets hurt at guard or tackle, he might be the next guy in, even if it's a guard or a tackle right now, since there's no Charles Jagasol. But the other younger guys are going to compete for that. I thought Styles Prescott was solid today. He was solid. He was okay. I thought Peter Jones actually had he was a little inconsistent. He's got the thing with Peter is he just stops his feet too much at contact, and then he'll fall down. But when he kept his feet moving, there's a couple times, Trev, where he came off on a combo block. His guy, the guy next to him took over the block, and he's getting up to the second level real nicely and getting a body on people. But then there's other times where he'll hit and he'll start to move a guy and then just stop his feet and fall forward and lose his balance and lose the block. If he can just do a better job of continuing to work his feet through contact, he showed me a little something today, and he played with a little bit of fire today. So there were some good things to see from the second team and third team offensive line today. But yeah, the freshman class is really talented. Like they pop. Like when you watch them, they pop. It's like, okay, they don't know what they're doing yet, but just you can see the movement skills, you can see the punch, those type of things. I thought they popped today. That was good to see.
Brian, let's talk about a position that I know you hold near and dear to your heart, and that's the wide receivers. And there were some really impressive performances today at practice. Again, practice one, we got to see this carry out throughout the offseason and then obviously into the regular season ideally, but not getting the cart too far in front of the horse. This is a pretty good day for some of the wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're going to battle all spring because they're going to get some really good secondary players, but they actually won more battles than I thought they were going to win today as a group. They really did. I thought the receivers had a really good day. And, we talked about – we've talked so much about the receivers this offseason, so some things aren't going to come as a surprise. But then we're watching them go through drills. We're watching RVA. We're watching one-on-ones, and we kept coming impressed with number 8, Jerome Bettis Jr. He's got a very defined athletic frame. He was really smooth getting in and out of his cuts. He wasn't nearly as choppy as some of the other young receivers. Attacks the football really well. He had 2 of the better contested catches today. There was a quick post route where he had to go up and make a great catch on it. And then I think he had 2 really good. I think he had 2 of those like diving for a comeback route against tight coverage. Now the issue for Jerome is he had to catch a lot of contested passes because he wasn't getting separation. He's going to have to kind of work on that a little bit. But quarterbacks felt comfortable throwing the ball, and I thought Jerome looked good. He had a good day. We haven't talked a lot about him, and when we talk about the receiving core, we'll lift a bunch of guys, and we rarely talk about Jerome. But I thought he had a good day today. So and then Bubba Frazier had a really good day today. We'll talk about more about him. So it's a deep group, but I could argue it's even deeper today than maybe we thought it was based on a couple things. But the guy that I thought that I was really like, oh man, I don't want to get too excited. Let me cross my fingers. But I thought Cam Williams really had a nice day. He's an interesting player, Trev, because he still looks so awkward at times going through just drills. Where he's choppier than the other receivers. He doesn't still look like he quite understands the, sinking his hips and things like that. And you're like, yeah, he doesn't look a whole lot different than he did in the fall. Then we get out there to one-on-ones and you're like, okay, and 7-on-7 and team, you're like, okay, now Cam looks different. He had one of the more impressive plays of the day. He absolutely torched Mark Zachary off the line. Great move, quick move to beat him outside. And then he's running away from Mark Zachary when he beat him. And CJ underthrew him, and Cam had to slow down and wait and still was past the defense. And then he catches it. They tackle him a few yards downfield. But, like, if CJ leads him more, he beats him. And you could see CJ afterwards, like, let's go. Like, really good job. He had caught a couple snag routes, caught a couple out cuts. His out cuts during team looked cleaner and crisper than they did during drills, which was kind of weird, But and then he had late in the practice, I think it was Blake Hebert that threw it to him. He ran a little quick post route. Blake threw it in the window. Cam caught it and then made a quick juke of a safety to get and then cut back upfield and then they blew the whistle. But Trev, you're like, and I think he had another deep ball catch as well in the practice. But like he caught the ball well during individual. It was like, okay, this is the Cam Williams we were hoping to see. Now, we didn't see him do it against Christian Gray. We didn't see him doing it against Leonard Moore. But Mark Zachary started 3 games from Reading last year, and Cam was giving him some problems today. That's a good sign. So 1 practice down, but you're hoping that Cam can see this and say, hey, man, I actually am a pretty good player. Now let me really take that next step of what it takes every day to prepare mentally, prepare physically, improve my game, and go out there and make plays. Because you could still see some choppiness. There's a couple times he's running a snag route and he's not quite sure where to go to get open and like things like that he's going to have to continue to improve on. But, man, some of that other stuff, you're like, this cat. You can see what my source, one of my sources said, which I put in the intel piece, like he's the most talented receiver. I mean, just the most physically talented receiver. You could say it's arguable, and I think it is arguable, especially after like watching Mylan Graham and Bubba Frazier and some of those young cats running around today. But I still think Cam's the most physically gifted player they have. And to see him at least have a day where he kind of put it together, and it wasn't against like Chaz Smith making his first practice of, it wasn't against, Aiden Pouncey. It was against Mark Zachary. He was a good football player. That was really good to see.
Yeah, one of his most impressive plays of the day, one of the reps that set up that beautiful slot fade where he broke Mark Zachary off the line was also against Mark Zachary in one-on-ones. He ran a slant route, and it took everything in me to not like stand up out of my chair because I watched him run that route and went, oh my goodness. I mean, it was faked inside, back outside, and then finished off the slant, and the corner got put in a spin cycle.
Yeah,
an absolute spin. It was a gorgeous route, man. The potential's there. It always has been.
Hope he can just start. Now, the key for Cam is all this sounds great. And it's awesome. And Mike Denbrock talked about it. I mean, Mike Denbrock brought up how good Cam looked today in the press conference. But the key for Cam is going to be, dude, you got to start stacking some of these practices on top of each other. Yeah, you did great today, but you need to do it again tomorrow. You need to do it again next, whenever. I don't know when the next practice is after tomorrow. But, like, you know what I mean? Like next Thursday, next Friday, whatever your next practices are, you got to stack them. And you need to have more of these days than you have. Everybody's going to have off days. CJ's going to have off days. Tay Johnson's going to have off days. Leonard Moore's going to have off days. Everybody's going to have off days. But those have to be fewer and far between. And if you can do that, you're going to have a chance to make some plays because I thought Micah Gilbert had a solid day today, had a couple nice comeback grabs, and then he beat Mark Zachary on a post route. And you saw what Mike Denbrock was talking about where he talked about afterwards, that Cam's got a little bit more, that Mike has got a little bit more quickness and speed than people give him credit for. And you saw that because Mark could not catch Cam or Micah on that post route either. So to see those two boundary receivers making some big plays down the field was a great sign. And then, of course, you love the fact that just overall that Notre Dame's pushing the ball down the field. But, Micah had a good day as well. Working with the first, he was with the first, when they first lined up with the offense, the first team was, you had Micah Gilbert in the boundary, Mylan Graham in the slot, and then Jordan Faison to the field in that X position. And then second team was Cam Williams in the boundary, and then you had Bubba Frazier in the slot, and then Elijah Burris to the field. And then, of course, we also saw Caden Finley in the slot. We saw a little bit of Jerome Bettis into the boundary. We saw Devin Fitzgerald a little bit. But, I think that's kind of where we started off with, Trev. But I thought another guy that had a pretty good day today was Elijah Burris, and he had a catch that was up for, if we're voting on catch of the day, he had one of those today as well.
Yeah, man, great contested catch in the end zone. It was actually pretty good coverage. I think it was Chaz Smith who was on that, I believe, but it was
Yeah,
relatively good coverage. But
yeah,
I mean, Elijah Burris went up, made a great play one-on-one on the football, and came down. I mean, they were I mean, it from where the wide receiver group was behind the line of scrimmage watching the play happen, they jogged the entire way into the end zone where Elijah Burris caught it, and they were still wrestling for who got the
yes,
football.
which I
Ties
loved.
all
Yeah,
same. Ties go to the receiver. Elijah Burris brought down a great catch. It was a good route, too. It was a good route, good coverage. It was just one of those kind of best on best type of reps, and it was a great catch.
yeah,
Heck
we'll
of a
have a
catch.
lot to say about Chaz when we get to that part, but I love the competitiveness that Elijah showed. His route running was really crisp. He's a really sharp route runner. Didn't get a lot of opportunities to get the ball thrown his way, but you could even see, because like if you really know what you're doing as a receivers coach, you're evaluating a guy even if the ball doesn't come his way. Like, you know, I watched a play where Mylan Graham had a really nice move on a nickel and then just torches that gets outside wide open. He didn't get the ball, but you can still see that play and be like, whoo, you know, there you go. It's impressive. So I think those are all positive things, Trev. Thinking of some other receivers that I thought looked good today, just kind of focusing on the veterans. We talked about Jerome, we talked about Micah, Cam. I didn't pay a lot of attention to Jordan Faison, to be honest with you. I'm just going to be straight. I don't care what Jordan Faison does the first day of practice. I've seen Jordan Faison make plays in the playoffs. I've seen him make plays against Miami and Texas A&M. I don't care what he does on day one of practice. I'm watching other guys that I'm unsure of. I know that Jordan can ball, and we'll pay more attention to him down the road. But you know, I thought athletically, he looks really impressive. Like he's really quick. Like you just see it. Like he's definitely stronger. You can see because he's not cutting weight for lacrosse this offseason. He's still focusing on explosiveness and things like that. The short area bursts that you don't see as much of in lacrosse. Let's talk about let's talk a little bit about Mylan Graham today, Trev. I was a little surprised that they had him in the slot today. I thought maybe we might see Jordan Faison there with Mylan outside, but he looked comfortable. I thought he looked good there. I mean, he had a really nice slot fade, couple nice slot fade wins. The thing I noticed about Mylan, he is as athletic as all get out. Like he's extremely gifted. I saw no issues catching the ball today. There's been some Ohio State people, I thought he caught the ball very well today. The one thing he's going to have to get better at moving forward, especially if he's going to play some in the slot, he's got to be more aggressive attacking the football in contested situations. That's the one thing that Mylan's going to have to do is be a little bit more competitive when there is tight coverage and the ball's still thrown at him. That's really the thing. But I thought Mylan had a pretty good day today.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, you can see the potential of him with the ball in his hands too. He's a twitchy guy. He was also one of the guys that was back as one of the potential, I believe, one of the potential kick returners. So they know what he can do with the ball in his hands. So yeah, I'm with you. Another thing too, it wasn't too much because athletically he was pretty superior to some of the nickels that he was going against, but also like at the point of contact because the coverage is a little bit stickier, getting his playing strength up just a little bit. He's not a
Come on,
small
Mylan.
guy, but yes.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. There were times where he struggled a little bit getting off of coverage. I'll talk about one
He's
of
got
those
to
plays
use
when
his
we get.
hands. Like that's a
Yeah.
big thing, Trevor. He's just got to learn to he doesn't use his hands to keep them off of his body, and that'll just be something I'll have to improve upon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about one of the plays once we get to the defensive side of the ball, but if he can use his hands better and then get his play strength up just a tad, I think it's going to do wonders for him. That's for sure.
I agree. I was really impressed with Bubba Frazier today, Trev. He is, I mean, in when we got to the team in the 7-on-7s, it was mostly just like him getting the ball short. You know, he wasn't really getting a lot of opportunities to run deep and things like that. And you know, so it was mostly quick game there. But when you saw him in the practice periods, we didn't get to see Bubba just really let it rip a whole lot vertically in the team stuff. But in individual stuff, he is lightning fast. I mean, he is really explosive. And he's put together pretty well. I think you saw on team that Bubba, like all the other freshmen, is like, and I love that the staff kind of did this, to be honest with you. They threw all those kids in the deep end of the pool, man, and said, hey, let's see if you can swim, you know, and Bubba's, you know, he's above water, you know, he's paddling hard, but man, when he's just like in a drill where it's like, hey, Bubba, you do this. He is really twitchy and athletic. Seeing him up close and personal, you're like, okay, he is what I thought he was going to be athletically. Because, like, honestly, for me, that's a lot of what day one is and day two is as a coach. It's like, okay, is he who we thought he was athletically? Is he who we thought he was from a competitiveness standpoint? And as long as those things are true, you can coach the other stuff up. I can coach him how to run a route. But is he athletic enough? Does he compete? Does he battle? And that is definitely true. I was really impressed with Pub. Like, you get him, like, they were doing some screen game stuff today, and he just catches the ball and he's through that line in a hurry. He really impressed me today.
Yep, very explosive athletically. He was also just a little bit bigger than I thought he was. I know when the depth chart came out, they listed him at 5'10", but I was like, yeah, but like, I mean, Charles Jagasaw shrunk 2 inches. CJ Carr is now shrunk an inch. So it's just like, who knows? But he was bigger than I thought. I mean, full disclosure, I kind of just lumped him in with like the Braden Robinson type of build, because that's just what I assumed coming out of the recruiting class. He's more put together than what I thought.
And I don't know if he's quite 5'10", but he's close. Like, he looks to be about the same size as Jordan Faison.
Agreed.
Height-wise. So that was a good sign. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Any other receivers, Charlie? Just overall, I mean, we're just giving you guys some quick rundowns. Overall, I was very pleased with the receivers today. This group can move. And Notre Dame has 3 different coaches working with the wide receivers today. So they had, obviously, Mike Brown. They had Trent Miles, who was the receiver, who was actually Jeff Samardzija and Mo Stovall's receivers coach during their first few years. We've always talked about how when Charlie showed up, those guys already knew how to play. They already knew how to, line up, run routes, and do all that. Charlie just had to bring the scheme. And then we also saw Sean Shivers working with him today too, who's one of the new coaches, which is smart because Mike Brown can't coach 15 guys all by himself if you want your young guys to get any kind of attention at all.
Right.
And he also, I can tell you this as a receivers coach, it can be really hard when you're in a lot of spread sets to be able to watch everybody. And you could just see them that Mike Brown would have his eyes over here, and then somebody else would have their eyes on those guys. And so they're getting a lot of good individual coaching. That was really good to see. Mike Brown is clearly the receivers coach. I'm not trying to be like, Mike Brown can't do the job. I'm saying, like, this is a smart move by the staff to say, we have a deep and talented group, but a lot of young guys. And it's a disservice to your older guys if you're spending all your time on your young guys. So give them some help in there. And it was clear that some of the other coaches were really spending a lot more time, like on the freshmen, for example. And I thought that was a smart coaching decision by, whoever's decision it is, whether it's, Mike Brown or whether it's Mike Denbrock or Marcus Freeman. I don't really care, but it was a really smart decision to get some extra eyes there. I think that'll help them a lot.
Agreed completely. Let's talk about the running back room today, Brian. And it was obviously a limited sample size because Aeneas was, like non-contact, partial, I guess you could say eligibility. Nolan James was out there. Jonas Walton was out there. And then obviously we know about some of the other injured players. But This was, from the guys that we saw today, even from Aeneas and the times that we did get to see him in some of the 7-on-7 or our routes versus air type stuff, the running back room impressed.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I was happy that we were able to see as much of Aeneas as we did.
Yeah.
He's out there going through drills. He was also getting handoffs, I believe. I could have been mistaken, but I thought I saw him in the red jersey taking handoffs. He's just not going to be in anything where there's any kind of potential, contact. I mean, you saw it, Trev, with when he catches the ball in space, the defensive players aren't going near him. It's like, that's not the point. Once he catches the ball, plays over. Let him run, plays over. But what I liked from Aeneas, though, Trev, is he moved really well today. He's got noticeably more juice today. He ran a wheel route by Rodney Dunham, and you're like, dude, he got out there quick. We've seen him run wheel routes. He was moving. His burst, he caught a swing screen and just planted his left foot and exploded vertically. And so even though he's a little thicker, I think, than he was last year, it looks like he has trying to think of the way, because Aeneas was never like, he's always been a pretty put together kid, but he just looks a little bit more filled out up here and less down here. and just like his lower body's just a little bit even more defined. And he's always been a put together kid. So like it looks like he's got a little bit more weight on, like good weight on, but also that comes with a little bit more juice. So that was really good to see in those limited reps. And hey, shocker, Aeneas Williams caught the ball real well. I know you guys are all going to be super surprised by that. You know what I mean? I'm saying sarcastically, but Aeneas looked good. But getting a chance to see a lot of Nolan James Jr. and Jonas Walton was awesome, Trev. And I thought Nolan James is one of the standouts for the offense today.
Yeah, basically what he did today is he laid the foundation of, hey, I'm coming for this spot. Long way to go. And like we said, with a competition that's going to be this competitive, I doubt that Jay Sider or Mike Denbrock are going to name an RB1 by the time the spring is over. But what he did today is no.
Yeah.
But what he did today is put a lot of people on notice. That kid is talented, and since he switched his number to 2 and has a left arm sleeve tattoo, I thought he looks just like Blake Corum.
Eerily like Blake.
I mean,
yeah.
It's when we watched his high school film and we broke down his recruitment, I mentioned that one of his comps that he looked like was Blake Corum, the way that he ran. And now that he's filled out a little bit more, he's a little bit thicker in the lower body. Dude's put together really well. Watching him move around today, I was like, that kind of just looks like Blake Corum. It
was shocking, honestly. Like I was really surprised. I was not expecting him to look as like, wow, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying, Trev. Like you just with that number 2 and everything, he does. But look, let's first of all, he has put on a lot of upper body weight. And like his arms are noticeably thicker than they were last year. And then just he's got some burst, man. Like he really has some explosiveness athletically and catches the ball. I mean, he catches the ball as well as Aeneas does. At least I thought today he did.
Yep.
You know, early in practice, they're doing some routes on air. We call RVA, routes versus air. And, you know, he's coming out of the backfield. They did a lot. I don't get too much into it, but they did a lot of stuff with the running backs out of the backfield. Like not running out of the backfield, but like lined up outside and with Nolan and Jonas and Aeneas, and they all look good doing it. But he catches the ball real clean. He needs a little bit of work as a route runner. He's not as crisp of a route runner as Aeneas is, but he catches the ball real well. Had the catch of the day. You know, CJ's kind of forced out of the pocket. He throws a little check down and Nolan like reaches behind him and just one hands it and brings it in. You're like, okay, this kid, which is a dangerous pass because if that hits off of his hand and floats up in the air, it might get picked off, but he just snatched it out of the air. There's another play where they threw him a check down and he squares up a defender and just makes this quick move and just jukes the guy. I remember who it was, but just leaves the guy grasping at air and gets upfield. And you're like, yo, this kid can play. This kid can play. He was one of my offensive standouts today, Trev. He had a really good day.
Yeah.
Really good day.
Rightfully so. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he looks like at the end of April when we get to go back and watch him run behind an offensive line that is in pads and is actually going as close to 100% run blocking as they can. That'll be the next step, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing that from him. But yeah, he had a very good day today. Definitely an offensive standout. Going to make a push. I think today is starting his journey at the bare minimum solidifying himself in the rotation. But it was a strong day from him. I thought Jonas Walton also had a pretty good day today as well.
Jonas looks the part. He moves the way you want a running back to move. He was just clearly like with all the freshmen, like day one, there were sometimes he was slowed down because he wasn't sure where he was going. But a guy like that, you watch during Indy, you watch during RVA. How does he move? He moves great. He blocked well in instances where he's asked to block. Well, he's got really nice feet, Trev. Like he's a really agile kid. Very impressed with Jonas athletically. And honestly, the fact that he's going to get this many reps is going to be great for him because if all 5 guys were healthy, or even if 4 of the starting, the scholarship backs were healthy, Jonas would get a lot fewer reps just because there's that many more guys to split reps between. But he got a ton of reps today, and just got better throughout the practice. He's a talented kid. Like again, he's another one of those guys. Like I hope he looks like I hope he looks like I hope he is supposed to, or how I think he does. Like I see the film, but that's high school. Like not everybody always looks like in high school, in college like they did in high school. You hope your evaluation was solid, but when you watch Jonas move around today, like, okay, yeah, I see it. He's got that really nice first step. He's got some speed. He's got that real nice gear. Like, he doesn't look like a guy that's fast, but he's really fast and caught the ball very well. But he's another guy that I'm like, I can't wait to see what he looks like in practice 12, 13, 14, and 15, with all these reps, because athletically, he's got the tools, man. He's a top 100 player. There's no doubt. Just physical tools. He's impressive. You talked earlier too about Nolan James. Like he was competitive in pass pro as well today too. I forgot. I think we should reiterate that again also.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I go back to the play that I was talking about where he had a beautiful blitz pickup on a Don Schuler. CJ Carr threw from a clean pocket today. Some of that is because they weren't going 100% in the pass rush, but the other part of that, the offensive line kept him really clean. Sort of the running back stepping up in pass protection. That was a little bit of when I saw Jonas Walton swimming a little bit, because there's a lot that they have to account for.
Yeah.
Kind of makes what Aeneas Williams did his true freshman season all the more impressive, because he came in as a true freshman. It was the third down guy, but man, Nolan James competed today. I mean, Don Schuler is one of the hardest hitting players on the team. And not in pads, Nolan James was not afraid to meet him on the perimeter of the offensive line and make sure that CJ threw from a clean pocket. So he performed well in that phase of the game as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Good day for the backs. I mean, there's only so much you can learn about a running back when he's, not in pads, but athletically, they definitely looked apart.
Let's wrap up the offensive conversation here, Brian, with a little bit of talk about the tight ends, which, again, I also kind of file into the bucket of hard to give a true evaluation when the pads aren't on, especially considering the strengths of what a lot of them are. Obviously, both of the Flanagans are very talented or have the potential to be highly, highly talented run blockers. Tough to evaluate that on a day like today, but I liked what I saw from the group in the limited time that we did get to see them.
Yeah, I mean, they move well. It's such a different looking group than last spring, because if you think about it, Trev, last spring there was no. We were up there talking to Ty and Jack Larson about this, but like last spring there was no Cooper Flanagan, no James, because Cooper was hurt. James Flanagan wasn't there because he was still in high school, probably playing hockey and getting ready for track right about this time of the year. And there was no Ty Washington because he didn't enroll until the summer. Yeah. He was at a couple practices, but it was such a different looking group. We'll be kind of brief with this group because we can't watch every position as much. And, when there's no pads on, there's certain positions you're like, I don't care as much about this as I do others. But like, I thought Jack Larson has gotten thicker. He was more physical at the point of attack. I thought he had a really good day catching the football. Cooper Flanagan had a little bit of an unfortunate day, Trev, in that it just seemed like the quarterbacks could not throw accurately to him. You know what I mean? Like, he was open a couple times, ran a really nice seam route that the defense played very, very well. But I was impressed by how fast Cooper was getting down the field to get over top of the defense. And, if it's not a linebacker like Jalen Sneed chasing him, who knows where that play might have gone. But, I thought that was impressive to see. And James Flanagan, he's the real deal, Trev. They're doing inside run. You guys were watching one-on-ones, and I'm trying to kind of go back and forth, and they're doing inside run down here. Inside run is basically just offensive line, linebackers, offensive line, tight ends, running backs, and D-line linebackers just doing run game stuff. First or second play of the game, James Flanagan comes off the line and drives Bryce Young like 4 yards off the ball. Look, I don't think Bryce was ready for it. Just drives him off the ball like 4 yards. You're like, dude. I'm like, okay. And we saw a lot of that from him today. Thought he ran relatively well on routes. Most of the stuff he was asked to do was short stuff. So, still learning to be more consistent with his footwork coming out of breaks. But overall, I was impressed with what we saw from James. But, man, physically, he's an impressive guy. I thought Ty Washington's body has been completely reshaped. Like, let's be real about it. Ty was a little bit pudgy last year. Let's be real about it. Like, he was a little bit pudgy. He didn't show up in the weight room at Notre Dame until the summer. He looks very different right now. He's much more defined. There's less in the midsection. There's more up here. I thought Ty looked good today. I thought Ty had a really solid day of practice. I would like, and Preston Frizzell can fly. He can really run. He looks completely out of place playing tight end. Now, he's put on some good weight. He's filled out, but he still looks more like a big receiver than he does a tight end. But he competed when the limited reps of the run game, he competed. But Preston can run.
Yeah.
And he catches the ball really well. So just on the hoof, how they looked, how they ran around, how they're put together, really like what this group did today.
Agreed. Ty Washington, I echo that same sentiment with him. He looked a little bit lighter on his feet running routes today, too. Versus air and some of the team periods, he looked a lot more fluid.
His weight, he's actually heavier than he was last year, Trev. He was like 245 last year, but it's different weight. It's good weight. It's muscle weight. And he had some more juice today, to your point. He looked good. I was impressed with what I saw from Ty. I'm not saying he's going to go win the John Mackey Award this year, but he looked physically more impressive to me today than he did when we saw him in the fall. That was a good sight. Very good sign to see. Which, again, I mean, it makes sense. He's now a full year into the weight program at Notre Dame. He had the whole summer, all fall, now the winter, and he's put the work in. And so, go ahead, Trev.
Yeah, and I mean, his season at Arkansas in 2024 didn't end in November or December.
Right.
It ended earlier, so he had more time off as well, which also was a factor.
Right.
I'm with you completely. Folks, that's going to do it for part one of today's show. Stick around. We still got to talk about the defense. Very excited about this group as well. And then, of course, we're wrapping everything up with talking about the big recruiting day that's happening tomorrow. But before we get there, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends and family, anybody that you know loves Notre Dame and college football as much as you do. But as always, now that spring practice is kicked off, the best way to get all the intel and stay in tune, and the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All right, Brian, in part two of today's show here on the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We're talking about the defensive side of the ball now, and we just got done recapping the offense. It's the first day of spring practice, and we got to see the boys run around a little bit today. Got full practice access today, and let me tell you, man, those D-boys were really wanting to compete today. They were physical, even without having shoulder pads on. They were wanting to hit a little bit, and I am excited for what this defense is going to be able to do this year. A lot of moving parts. Almost all of your transfer portal players are on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of early enrollees on the defensive side of the ball, and you have 3 new position coaches. So there's a lot of moving parts that are having to gel kind of at the same time, but I was pretty impressed from this group and what I saw today.
Yeah, Trev, I mean, I think I want to kick things off a little bit with the coaching. I know you spent a lot of time watching Charlie Partridge today. I'll let you talk about that. I kept in mind, I mean, well, honestly, when the linebackers were going through drills, I was actually paying attention more to Brian Jean Marie than I was the linebackers. Same thing with Aaron Henry. Javon Codlin had a very different role this year than he did last year, and they just the way, like I said to you before, I'm going to be watching eye contact. And honestly, whether it was Javon Codlin, whether it was Aaron Henry, whether it was Brian Jean Marie, whether it was Charlie Partridge, whether it was Andy Buh, whether it was Nick Sebastian, what I really liked was the eye contact and the body language when players and coaches were interacting today on D. I thought was very good. And that was again, like I've said before, that's something that I wanted to see. I wasn't sure how that was going to look early on. We talked about this the other day, but from what we saw, I was very happy. I was pleasantly surprised with how well that looked. I really was very pleasantly surprised with how that looked. It's a good sign. And very active. They all look comfortable. There was no okay, I got to kind of, sow my wild oats, so to speak, as a coach and ease myself into it. They were getting after it too, which is obviously what you want to see. So very impressed with what we saw by that group today.
I watched a lot of Charlie Partridge today, especially early on in practice when they were going through Indy period. And a lot of times when they go through Indy, a lot of the skill and big skilled guys go and separate off and do special teams drills, and the defensive line and the offensive line typically separate in opposite ends of the field. And when I was watching Charlie Partridge today, he was very hands-on, very interactive. When I mean hands-on, at times, I mean literally hands-on. Not that he's like grabbing a guy by the shoulder pad saying, "You need to do this better."
I'm doing this in
Not
honor of Lou Holtz. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Nothing like that, but it was about hand placement. And it was a lot of, hey, if they come at you this way, you can get under and drive this way. It's like very hands-on. And that's how I learned as when I played. It was very like you can sit here and like tell me, but I need to go out and see it. I need to go out and do it. And that's the approach that Charlie Partridge took on. To your point, every D line that was taking coaching from him, eye contact, nodding, assuming a lot of yes, sir, no, sir, that type of thing. Obviously, I'm not down there to hear all of it, but everything he did today was very intentional. And he coached everybody that way. He talked to Boubacar that way. He talked to Bryce Young that way. He talked to 6-year Jason Onye that way. He also talked to Elijah Golden that way and Davian Dixon that way. He talked to Ebenezer Utade that way and Rodney Dunham that way. So he was very, very hands-on. I didn't get to see as much of Aaron Henry as I would have liked because where we sit, they were almost, especially during Indy, like directly
it's the same
underneath us.
story. It was the same story, Trev. It's what we saw with the other. I mean, very active. I thought his group responded well to him. I mean, again, this is day one. There's gonna be some ups and downs, but overall, I was pleased with what we saw today. I'll say this too. Chris Ash was a lot more vocal and active today than he was at the same time a year ago. Last year in the spring, we talked about day one, like he just was kind of just there. And he was letting the coaches kind of coach, and he was just kind of there. Today, he was a lot more engaged. I don't say engaged. That's not the right word, because engaged makes it seem like he was over there like eating Cheetos in the corner during practice, engaging. He was engaging more. He was coaching more. He was seeing things more. It was very much like okay, I've written up the script. Now I'm making sure everybody's following the script, the kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I thought that was an interesting observation from today as well. But part of that might be the fact that the three guys that were hired are all guys at least two of the three guys he hired are guys he has relationships with, longer relationships. So maybe he's more comfortable, stepping in and offering insight. I don't know what the motivation is, but it's good to see. You want to see that. You want to see your defensive coordinator being active.
Yeah, a lot of it too is what he talked about in his press conference, and he was talking about like, look, at this point last year, I was still kind of getting my feet under me, getting to know my players.
I didn't know what they could do. Yeah,
like a lot of it was that. Now I know what they're capable of doing. Now I know what they expect of themselves, and now I know what to expect from them. He talked about that in his press conference. So to your point, I think a little bit of that as well was just kind of he knows his way around now. And so it was very promising to see. I'm with you. Definitely with you there. Brian, let's do what we did on the offensive side of the ball, dive into each individual position group. And with the defense, we'll start along the trenches, the defensive line. And today was very impressive from what I saw from them. On top of the coaching that they were getting from Charlie Partridge, first and foremost, physically, they look very impressive. This is probably the biggest defensive line group that I've seen Notre Dame have across the board in quite some time. Now, I'll kind of throw it over to Brian to kind of back that point up because this is just my second time being at practice, second season being at practices. So I have 2025 spring to go off of and now 26 spring. But physically, they look the part with guys like, Elijah Golden putting on a lot of good weight. Christopher Burgess is now close to or over 300 pounds. He's looking the part. Very, very big unit.
Well, and they're bigger, but they're not fat. You know what I mean? Like when you see Tion Gray, you see a 6'5", 330. You think he's going to look like that SEC lineman, where like it's like his guts kind of sticking out of his shirt because they can't make a shirt big enough to cover his entire midsection. Like that's not it. He's just big, just broad-shouldered, big arms, big feet, big ankles. I mean, he's just a big kid. And he's put together well. Francis Brew is jacked. I mean, Chris Burgess is 300 pounds, but he carries it very well. Jason Onye carries his 300 pounds well. Armel Mukam is actually somebody who was down a little bit today, but he just looked better. He just looked better. Big defensive ends. And this team runs. This defense can fly. There's so much range on this defense, Trev. And not just Tay Johnson. I mean, he stole the show today. We'll get to Tay, but just in general, the athleticism. I mean, you watch Logan Thomas, Rodney Dunham, and Ebenezer Utade run around, and you're like, that's your 4, 5, and 6 right now at defensive end? Just exceptional athleticism. So it's a bigger team, and that includes you not having your 3 biggest linebackers at practice. It's just noticeably bigger, and they can really move. This is this the depth. You're watching the freshmen run around, and you're like, these guys move like they're really athletic. There was a play. I mean, you watch Tay do what he did, and you're like, dude, he's a junior for me, blah, blah, blah. But then you watch Joey O'Brien come downhill, like they're blitzing off the edge. And so Joey's rolling downhill to cover the flat, and he sees a running back route or a quick out, and he just keeps going. And you're like, okay, I get why he was there, but how the heck did he get to the football? And you know what also I thought too, Trev, is I don't remember any blown plays today. There were plays where they got beat, but it was like, you better block it up, run a good route, and throw the ball well. I don't remember. Maybe I missed it, but I don't remember any like somebody hitting the wrong gap in the backside cut run lane, just opening wide up, or somebody getting turned loose in the coverage. There was actually one during 7-on-7, one early where they turned Mylan Graham loose. Other than that, I thought the defense was, they were sound. They were where they're supposed to be. And I thought overall it was a day, and they're very active. And they played with a little bit of chippiness. There was definitely some chippiness in this practice day, in the good kind. There wasn't like blows being thrown, but there was a little bit of, trash talking in that one. But this is such a deep unit, Trev. And as good as we thought this freshman class was, I don't know if I want to say they're better than advertising a day where we can't watch them in pads. I'll just say this. They didn't disappoint. They definitely didn't disappoint.
No, definitely not. Same thing. Continuing the talk with the defensive line, man. It's the freshman class didn't disappoint there either. Now, it's a little bit different because the rotation goes a little bit deeper on the defensive line, especially because, in the secondary, Leonard Moore didn't do a whole lot today. Obviously, we know what linebackers are out. So we got to see some of the underclassmen and some of the early enrollee true freshmen a little bit quicker than we did on the defensive line, because on the defensive line, Jason Onye was there, Boubacar was there, Bryce was there, Dion Gray was there, Francis Brew was there, a lot of the older Keon Keeley was there. But one thing that I've noticed, the length on the edge has gotten a lot better. The length on the interior has gotten significantly better. It's just a very long defensive line, very twitchy defensive line across the board. That's another thing that stuck out to me today as well.
Francis Gray was noticeably small compared to everybody else, where in the past it didn't. Like when you're watching the D-line 2 years ago, Riley Mills looked like the unicorn.
Yeah.
And because you had Howard Cross and you had Donovan Heinisch and you had guys like that. Now it's like giant, Francis Brew, giant. But even Francis, who's like short, is just, man, oh man, it's a good looking group. But yes, the exceptional length on the front and back end. We're watching Tay Johnson at 6'2 plus run around. Luke Talich had some really good coverage reps today where he just covers a lot of ground. Joey O'Brien, Ethan Long. I don't think Caden Finley, there was a play where it's one-on-one routes, first one-on-one rep that Caden Finley took, and he's getting close to Ethan Long, and I think he's about to start to make a move, and Ethan just hits him in the ribs, and he goes down, like Tyson just hit him with a hook to the ribs, and he's like, I didn't think that was going to, and he just buckled. Because I don't think he thought this guy's too far away from me to get into he was getting ready to make a move, but Ethan is so long, he's able to just kind of get into him. And Caden learned a lesson, and the next time he did a better job and had a good practice. But that first rep was like, welcome to college football, bro. You know what I mean? And it's a really long athletic group. It really is. It really is. And it's, of course, it starts up front, to your point, Trev. Let's talk about some individual performances. I thought that Logan Thomas looked good today. I thought he's very explosive. He had a really, there was a rep he beat Will Black, just exploded off the edge. Boubacar was Boubacar. Bryce Young was a little up and down. He left his chest open a little bit too much today. But he also had some really nice wins and one-on-ones as well. I thought Francis Brew looked good. You could tell he's still kind of first day in a new defense. Same with Tion Gray, first day in a new defense. There were some ups and downs from those two, but they move really well. Christopher Burgess looked great in drills. super athletic for his size. I shouldn't say super, very athletic for his size. Moves well. I think he carries all the additional weight quite well. He's now listed at 300 pounds. Early in one-on-ones, he had a couple mistakes, and there was a couple times early in the first team period, even before one-on-ones, where he was just kind of running into guys, and he was late with his hands, and he wasn't really getting off blocks. In his later one-on-one reps, and then when we got to the later team periods, he looked more comfortable. He was using his hands better to get off blocks and to win. I just think there's going to be some ups and downs from Christopher Burgess from a technical standpoint and just getting used to playing D tackle. But physically, it was nice to see him moving around today, Trev, because he every bit looks the part of a big-time interior defensive lineman.
Absolutely. He's very similar to how Blake Hebert was on offense. It's just you see the physical tools, looked really good at times. Once that light bulb goes on and the technical prowess and the football IQ really starts to come along, it's going to be a very, very good football player. He impressed me today. Thought Keon had a good first practice at Notre Dame. I thought he was twitchy. There were some parts of his game, you talked about it before, it's that twitchy, high ceiling, just excellent talent, younger guy that they saw back in the day. There's still bits of that left. And you saw that today going through drills, not so much during team. Again, D-line is just so hard to evaluate when we go through a practice sets of this format. So very much looking forward to see them down the road when the pads are on and they're going full go. But he was very twitchy today. He impressed me. I echo the same sentiment that you said about Francis Brew. He was impressive today. Davian Dixon was very strong at the point of attack, but you could tell he was shaking off a little bit of the rust.
He's just a bull. I mean, he's just an absolute bull. The next thing is going to be learning to win.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Learning to beat the guy in front of you, but he's just, I'm going to hit you and knock you back. And it looks good when he does that.
It does.
It really does.
Well, absolutely.
I'll tell you. Go ahead. You can.
Elijah Golden was another player that stuck out to me today as well. He's somebody else that's put on a good amount of weight since he's gotten to campus, and it's not slowing him down athletically. He hasn't lost a step, and very similar to a lot of the other really all other players that we've talked about today. It's good weight. It's not, all right, Elijah, you're a defensive tackle. You're 275 when you get to campus. Here is just a $500 Visa gift card and go crazy. There's a McDonald's right around here around campus. It's really, really good weight. He looked good today.
Yeah, he did. I was impressed by what I saw from him. He's got a lot of tools. He's got a better sense of how to use his hands than I thought. And one of my big knocks on him coming out of high school was he stands up too much, plays way too vertical. You can tell he's working on that today. I thought he did a better job of keeping his back, from just going like this when he comes out of a stance, of kind of coming off like this and exploding his hips. So still a bit of a work in progress, but he's already making improvement just from the football school stuff we've seen. I'll be honest with you, the guy that flashed the most to me today, Trev, the guy that inside that I thought whoa, he had the most wow reps to me was Armel Mukam. So he's lost about, I'm actually getting ready to go look and see what his weight was when they weighed in. He was listed at 302 on the winter roster, and now he's listed at, and I'm actually right now as we're doing this updating the board, but he's now listed at 296. So he's still a big kid. He looked less. He looked at, and it looks like I know exactly where all the weight that he lost went. Or left. It's in that middle section. He looked a lot more put together, but he was much more explosive today, even more explosive today. He put a spin move on Joe. Was it Joe Wadding? Let me hold on.
Yeah, it was Joe.
I think it was Joe. During one-on-ones where he stepped one side and just spun around on Joe and just left Joe in the dust. This is a kid that started 6 football games for Notre Dame last year and was the starting center for a team that had 2 games of over 300 yards rushing. And Armel made him look like a freshman in his first practice. He made it look like a welcome to college football moment for Joe Wadding. And I'm like, dude, Joe's had a lot. He's a third-year player, and he had another win. He beat Cam Herron, just powered by him. So an athletic move and then a power move. I thought he was the flashiest today. Now, he's got to carry some of that into even more of the team periods, but I was impressed with what I saw from Armel today on day one. But the interior, the depth is kind of what we thought it was going to be, Trev. It really was. It was impressive to see.
Yeah, 100%. Exterior of the defensive line on the edges. The two freshmen stood out to me today as well, not necessarily just with a bunch of flashy plays. One, Ebenezer Utade was somebody that needed to come in and really take on to a collegiate strength and conditioning program, take on to a collegiate nutrition program, and he has absolutely done that. He is starting to look the part now, and it is very impressive.
I didn't recognize him at first. I was expecting that skinny string bean kid that we saw almost a year ago. I mean, the first time I saw Ebenezer in person was, I think, April 5th of last year. It was one of the practices we saw when he came and committed. You remember he did the thing where he handed Coach Washington the letter and the commitment and all that kind of stuff. And you could see like tall, really long arms, great length. But you're like, yeah, this kid might need a couple years to fill out. He gained 23 pounds from when he checked in January, weighed in January at 217. 240 today, and it was a good 240. Like, he has put together, his lower body's already like blowing up, and he is twitchy. I mean, he is twitchy. Now, he looks more, I'm not sure what to do, than Rodney does. Like, when Rodney got beat on the wheel route, he did it because he made an aggressive play, and it was a wrong move, and he got beat, but he did it going hard. Ebenezer is still in the I'm not sure what to do right here kind of mode. But when Ebenezer gets in his stance and he knows what he's doing, dude, that is impressive. Like him, I mean, if you only saw Logan Thomas, Ebenezer Utade, and Rodney Dunham, and you didn't even see Boubacar and Bryce Young, you just saw those three, like, dude, those guys are elite athletes. I mean, they are. Rodney Dunham is an impressive young man. Like Trev, there's just this thing where when you watch that first step in the past, Boubacar looked different than everybody else. Now it's like, yep, Boubacar's legit, but then you see Logan Thomas do it. Then you see Rodney Dunham do it. Then you see Ebenezer Utade do it. And you're just like, okay, now they're stacking dudes. Right now, they're way behind Boubacar in technique and advancement and all that other kind of stuff. But you're like, that's what an elite young defensive lineman is supposed to look like. Now, Keon can do it. You know, Bryce has got that twitch. This is as athletic of a defensive end group as I've seen. And that includes the 18-19 DNs who had 4 NFL draft picks on it. Like, these guys are even more explosive than that group. Because Julian was the only one that looked that twitchy amongst that group. I mean, Khalid Kareem was a heck of a player, and they don't have anybody on this D-line like Khalid was, right? Like, let's be real about that. But, you know, Dalen had a great first step, but not like these guys. Adi Takumba Ogundishi had a really nice first step, not like these guys. And so now, are they as good of players as those guys? Remains to be seen. I'm just talking explosiveness. It's as good as I've seen in the 15 years I've covered the team, and that includes that 18-19 group that had 4 DNs that got drafted in that rotation in 18 and 19. So athletically, they have everything that we hoped that they would, and that was a common theme today with the freshman class. Like, okay, I don't know what kind of football player he's going to be, but athletically, he's everything that I thought he was going to be. It's not confirmation bias, because if he wasn't, I would say, okay, he wasn't what I hoped he would be. It's just like, okay, I was hoping he would be that, and he is. So that was very encouraging. But, man, those two kids are explosive. So is Logan Thomas. Like, that trio right there, Trev, man, they can move. They can absolutely move.
No, they absolutely can. Speaking of kids that can move, we've already talked about quite a bit of them today so far. Let's start diving into this secondary. We'll start with the cornerbacks. This was a very promising day from this cornerback group. Literally yesterday I talked about, very talented, but some concerns at depth because it's just so young and inexperienced at a lot of places across the secondary. It was day one, so I'm not ready to just say, yep, they're fine. It doesn't matter. Who even cares? Yep. But my concern level for the youth in the secondary is way less than it was 24 hours ago. Way less.
Yeah. Explain why, Trev. You're always setting me up to go on long tangents. I'd love to hear what you have to say today, and I know the people would like to hear what you have to say today. But because I agree. But you brought it up. Expand on it, my friend.
They're really good. Back to you, Brian. No, so
I was like, well, I didn't actually know that. I just thought it sounded good, and I thought that you'd explain why.
Said,
No,
Brian, we talked about this before the show, bro. Like, come on, dude. No, so this is a very talented group, and above any other class besides any other position group on the team, I think the cornerbacks and really the secondary as a whole confirmed to me how elite of a recruiting class that this truly was. Really over the last 2 seasons, if I'm being honest, between what Ethan Johnson and what Dallas Golden also did today. We'll get into those players here in a second. But I had a lot of questions about the youth at secondary. A lot. It's like, hey, Kari Adams, high ceiling guy, a player that we're not even going to see yet. High ceiling guy, but he's a true freshman. Aiden Pouncey, long, lot of talent. He's a true freshman. Joey O'Brien, long, lot of talent. Very athletic, very smooth athlete. Still a true freshman. Jaden Sanders, true sophomore and a transfer. Dallas Golden coming in, true sophomore. A lot of what I saw today was a very competitive, explosive, and a very aggressive group. That's something that I loved to see today from this secondary, was their aggressiveness. They're willing to attack downhill. We talk all the time on this channel about, a lot of fans are still just man versus zone, too much zone. I have no problem with zone as long as it's taught aggressively. There were things that they did today that were aggressive.
I thought so, yeah.
Which is very promising to see. But these are high IQ football player kids as well. We can sit here and talk physical tools all the live long day, but how many players have we seen come through Notre Dame or different collegiate programs that have all the athletic ability in the world, but that football IQ doesn't come with it? There are a lot of things that I saw today from Aiden Pouncey, from Chaz Smith, from Joey O'Brien, that being a football player came very naturally to them. They're very instinctive. Still a ways to go. They're not ready to go out and play against Wisconsin tomorrow. I think they would do okay, but they're not ready to go out and play against them.
They're not ready to go out there tomorrow and beat Georgia. Yeah,
sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're an impressive group. I think the point of all that you just made, that it just speaks to the job that Mike Mickens did as a recruiter. He goes out and gets football players. And like, yes, they're long and athletic and all this, but like, they know how to play football. They're smart football players, and you love it. And when you talk about the secondary, we'll get to the older players in a second, but just getting into the freshmen, as good as all the other guys looked, the guy that I thought looked the most comfortable, the most natural, is Nick Reddish.
Yeah.
Just getting in drills. First of all, he's not built like a freshman. He's listed. Let me see what his listed weight is. He's up 11 pounds. He's now listed at 5'11", 5'10", 195. Built well. He's thick in the lower body. He's really smooth in his pedal. He took to the teaching very well. Like, he's out there looking like he's a vet and instinctive. And it's not, take the pick six aside. We were talking about how good Nick Reddish looked before the pick six. Trev looked over to me. He's like, dude, Nick Reddish looks really like natural playing that position. And then it was like maybe 10 minutes later, he steps in front of a Noah Grubbs pass and picks it off and takes it back to the house. Like, he was impressive. He was probably the most impressive from start to finish of all the freshmen.
Yeah.
But he wasn't DBs, freshman DBs. You watch Joey O'Brien. I thought early on, Joey looked like he was kind of feeling his way out. But then by the middle of the practice, it was just like, all right, now I'm playing. I talked about the play head earlier. There was another play, as a one-on-one. I'm trying to see who was he going against. There was a one-on-one here. I got all these different notepads.
If it's the one that I think you're talking about, it was against Mylan Graham.
Yes, he ran a burst corner route on Mylan. And Mylan, so what Mylan's trying to do, a burst corner basically is you're going to inside release, try to get the guy vertical, and you want him thinking it's a post, and then you snap it out to the corner, and he bites and you take it outside. And so Mylan gets him inside, and Mylan gets to his inside. Mylan stems it vertically, snaps the inside and breaks the out. And Joey did like a perfect roll into the corner route. Just like So he's looking this way, and he just does a perfect roll, feels Milan, and just stays glued to him. And the ball, if the ball's not thrown too far, Joey probably picks it because he's exceptionally long. And you're like, dude, that's a veteran play right there. Like, Milan Graham's a good route runner, and he did everything you're supposed to do on a burst corner, except that's a dude you're going against. And that was one-on-ones, right? Yeah, that was during one-on-ones. Just a really impressive play. Now, the next step is going to be, can he hit, can he tackle? Those are things that we're going to need to see. We don't know that today. But just, the feel for the position, the technical prowess, and the range, it was bonkers from him today. And we're going to get to the veterans here in a minute, but he was impressive. Chaz Smith they threw at him a lot today. I mean, Chaz had a lot of work today. He won some, he lost some, but when he lost, you better throw the ball accurately if you're going to beat Chaz. I mean, the play where Elijah Burris beat him for a touchdown, technically Chaz had as much of that ball as Elijah Burris did. It's just rule, offensive player gets, wins a tie. And that's the one where Trevor's like, neither guy was letting go of that ball. Like, neither guy was until they came and said, hey, break it up. But like, they went at Chaz early. First time I'm looking at one-on-ones, first time they went at him, he got beat for a touchdown. They went at him again on a corner route, and Caden Finley beat him on a corner route, but it was like a perfect corner route. And Chaz was right there. And I thought it was Noah. Noah Grubbs throws a perfect ball on the corner route, just drops it right over where if he doesn't throw a perfect ball, that's broken up. And those are the plays where they beat him. Then there was other plays where he just locked dudes down. Wasn't he? No, that was Jaden Sanders. But he was very good on the outside in coverage. He's stronger than I thought he was going to be, honestly, in coverage, because he's still only 173 pounds, I think is what they have him listed in now. And that's him up like 10 pounds. Like, what does he see? Let me see. He's up 9 pounds, like 172. Up 9 pounds to 172. But he's pretty strong. So I was very, very impressed with what we saw from Chaz Smith today. Aiden Pouncey, they didn't throw him a ton, but when they caught balls on him, he was all over the DB or all over the receiver. Like, he's long, he's rangy. He needs the most technical work of all the freshmen that we saw today. I would argue, like, just, his transitions, just his footwork needs a lot of work, but he competes, which I really liked. But man, this freshman class overall today, Trev, really long and rangy, and Ethan is really narrow. Aiden is really narrow. But he's put on good weight. He's noticeably stronger. The thing I wanted to see from him today was, how does he transition? How does he open up and run? How does he plant and drive downhill? Like, those are the things that are going to determine whether or not he's going to stick a cornerback. And I thought he looked good in all those areas. But he's rangy. But those 4 kids today, Trev, were really impressive. And the offense tried to pick on him. They did. And when you caught balls on him, you were I think so. Like, Aiden Pouncey got beat by Jerome Bettis, but it's like, I don't know what else you're going to want him to do. Like, it required like a really nice high throw that he had to make a great catch on. I was very impressed with what I saw from the freshman DBs today. They're every bit as good as advertised, and you could argue better because of how good Nick Reddish looked today.
Nick Reddish really, really impressed me. A lot of the conversation going into today was the nickel between, what are we going to see out of Dallas Golden and Christian Gray and who's going to look like there. Nick Reddish kind of stole the show there. That does not mean that Dallas Golden and Christian Gray played poorly. We're getting ready to talk about them in a second. But Nick Reddish really, really impressed. Before we get to some of the other veteran guys, I also want to mention Jaden Sanders. He was one of my dark horses to kind of break out this spring and kind of, hey, a lot of people are talking about this Colorado transfer that's coming in the summer. Let's not forget about this Michigan transfer that came in the winter. I thought he had a really solid day today too. Very natural, very fluid in his transitions as well. And he was one of the few guys that they played at all 3 spots.
Yeah, so they did a lot of, with the younger corners, they moved them around a little bit. We saw Chaz in the boundary some, and the field some. We saw Jaden Sanders to the field and boundary some, but we also saw him in the slot today. And he looked really comfortable at all of them. He really did. I thought he looked comfortable in the slot. He's strong. I mean, first rep we saw during team, they tried to throw a go ball on Jaden Sanders. I think Jaden Sanders was in the boundary. I think it was Dallas in the nickel and then Christian outside, correct? Or maybe it was I can't remember. It might have been reversed where Dallas was at the nickel and Christian was outside. But you got Jaden Sanders into the boundary all by himself against Micah Gilbert, and they went at him, and they transitioned, and he took his inside arm, and he hit Micah Gilbert in the chest, and Micah just rocked back, and he just locked on him the entire time. No chance to complete that ball. I was like, okay, Jaden Sanders came to play today. And he was kind of like that all day. Yeah. You know, he gave up some completions as they all did, but man, Trev, he impressed me. He got beat one time by Logan Saldate on a slant route where I thought he gave up the outside a little bit too much. But other than that, I mean, just going through my notes, I was very impressed by what I saw today from Jaden Sanders. He had a really, really good first day. Really good first day. And here's the thing, too, is I don't know that I saw a snap of Jaden Sanders playing man coverage at Michigan. Even when he would press, he would open and bail and take off and play cover 3. He almost exclusively cover 3 and cover 4 at Michigan last year as a freshman. So it was nice to be able to see him come up on Micah Gilbert and get in his face and press and get hands on and transition and all of that, because that's not something that we had really seen him do. He looked very comfortable playing near the line of scrimmage. And I should remind you that we saw them playing up near the line of scrimmage. Even in zone, like the comeback routes, they weren't giving up free access throws today, which was when we talk about, yeah, okay, you're playing zone, but are you aggressive attacking the football? And I thought today they were.
Yeah, it was nice to confirm that Jaden Sanders didn't play a lot of man at Michigan due to scheme, not ability. That was very promising to see. Let's get into some of the veterans in this secondary, Brian, because as awesome as Nick Reddish was today, which he absolutely was, the freshman class was as good, if not better than advertised. What we believe to have been the best secondary in college football, and we still didn't even get to see Leonard Moore that much today. There was a lot that was confirmed today, man. A lot.
Yeah. I thought they didn't throw at Christian Gray much. He was covering guys pretty well most of the time. I thought Christian was solid. Good run support. I thought Dallas Golden was an absolute dude today. And not just in coverage. I mean, he was super sticky in coverage. He was, locked down some slot fades, broke up a pass. I think it was, I can't remember who the ball was thrown to, but he's in good slant coverage, gets his arm around, knocks the pass down during a team period, playing with a lot of fire. You'd have thought this was like a playoff game, the way that Dallas is competing today. I mean, he was really playing with a lot of energy today. He looked so much more comfortable with his transitions, Trev, because like that's where Dallas would get in trouble last year sometimes, is he would make that transition and he would then lose it. Sometimes he'd be fine, but he just would lose, like, where I lost the guy. Today, he was opening up, staying perfectly in phase, getting hands on. He didn't get grabby. I thought Dallas had a great day, but then there's a play. They're doing they ran a screen pass. I think it was a screen pass to Aeneas. Dallas comes up and he blows up. I think it was a receiver. They want to block him outside. This is a play where Dallas was an outside corner because we saw Dallas in the nickel and outside today. He comes up and he just drills the receiver and knocks him back, which forces Aeneas to make an early vertical cut right into the waiting arms of Jaden Ausberry. If you stretch that out 4 or 5 more yards, I don't know that Jaden's going to be able to get to Aeneas at the line of scrimmage like he did. Maybe he tackles him 3-4 yards down the field, but it would have been a tougher tackle. But Dallas flies up and just drills the receiver and forces the early cutback, which allows the linebacker to get there. I mean, he was the force player. A lot of times we think of the defensive lineman being the force player, and you're trying to force it back inside of your linebackers. But on that particular play, it was Dallas that was supposed to do that. Now, if the guy tries to bounce outside, then Dallas gets off the block and he goes and makes the play. But if it cuts inside, a teammate's going to clean that up. Just all around, I thought Dallas Golden was outstanding today. Outstanding. Run game, pass game, energy, getting hands on the ball, just all of it. I'm just kind of going through my notes again. And I mean, first rep he takes today is against Mylan Graham. They tried to beat him on a post route. Dallas breaks it up all over him. almost picks it, just all over Milan on that play. Man, he was outstanding today, Trev. A slot fade against him with Milan, beats him, incomplete pass. Like, I'm just, slant route, incomplete pass against Caden Finley, all over Caden Finley on a slant. And we had just talked about how, man, Caden's really getting to his groove, and then he goes against Dallas, and it's like lockdown. I mean, it was over. You know what I mean? He was outstanding today. Outstanding today.
Oh, he was. He's also, you can tell he's made the jump from freshman to sophomore year physically. He looks very put together. Very put together. I mean, not even a slight to Christian Gray. If Dallas Golden wins the start at nickel, he might be their most physically put together nickel that they've had since Thomas Harper. Yeah. Thomas Harper was a big dude. Like, it could have been Devontae Smith, smaller sample size with him. Jordan Clark was a smaller guy, but Dallas Golden is very
I think Devontae was like a little thicker, just naturally wider than Thomas Harper was, but Thomas was jacked.
Yeah.
Like, Thomas Harper was ripped, and I think Dallas did. I mean, I couldn't tell his definition today because he had long sleeve shirt on, but you could tell he's really filled out. Y'all know I'm high on Dallas Golden, but I'm going to call it like I see it. I'm not going to hype him up just because he was a favorite recruit of mine. Guys, he was that guy today.
Yeah.
He was every bit that guy today.
And when he was at the nickel and when Christian Gray was to the field, I liked a lot of what I saw from Christian Gray at field corner today as well.
He was very aggressive.
Yes, absolutely. Very aggressive, stayed in phase well. He didn't get beat on any sort of big play. He had a very sound day. It was a good first day of spring for Christian Gray.
I agree. And they didn't test him. I'm looking through my notes. I can't. They ran a dig on him, and Jordan Faison caught a dig on him during one-on-ones, and it's like that just was a phenomenal ball by CJ Carr.
Yeah.
Like, Christian was in very good position. And the rest of the time, I'm like, I don't see 29 listed anywhere. Because we track all this stuff, and I remember that rep. And I see 29 listed once. That's it. Because they were just like, we're not throwing it to them. We're not throwing them. We're not going against them. Which is weird. I'm like, who's 29? It's like, Christian, can you just, like, I got used to 6. It took me all spring and half of the season to get used to 6, and now you're back to 29. Which is good, because now I can use all the photos my wife took 2 years ago of him. I can start using again because we have more photos of him from 2024 than we do of 2025. So that'll be nice. But he looked good today. He looked good. Well, it backs up what we said yesterday, Trev, where no, you don't want to lose Leonard Moore. He's the best corner in college football. But heaven forbid you have to not have him for a couple games again like you did last year. The guys they put out there with that first team, Jaden Sanders, Dallas Golden, and Christian Gray, like, dude, that's a pretty good cornerback group right there. And that's without the best cornerback in college football out there. And that gets you a little bit fired up. At least
it does. Well, it does, man. It really does. Before we wrap up the secondary talk about the 2 veteran safeties, the one number thing that got me mixed up today, I forgot Dallas Golden changed his number to 1. I was used to him being 14, and I saw Ebenezer Utade wearing 14. I was like, good Lord, Dallas Golden. I was like,
what kind of human growth hormone did this kid take?
That's what I'm saying. I was like, what kind of Captain America? Like, what in the world?
Grew 4 inches. He added about 60 pounds. He's jacked up.
I was like, good night. I was like, what's happening? And then I was like, oh, yeah, he changed his number to 1. That's Ebenezer. Okay.
Yeah, that would have b'en the world's craziest growth spurt, collegiate growth spurt ever. Yeah,
Bro.
Dallas Gold has moved positions. Where's he playing now? He's playing edge. He's now 6'4", 240. And his arms grew about 5 more inches. Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness they gave me a paper roster with the updated heights and weights listed, or I would have been writing about how Dallas Golden was tearing up Matty Augustine in inside
Matty
run.
Augustine could not block if you have Dallas Golden today an inside run. Like, hold on a second. Why was he doing that? I don't know, man. He was just down there playing some DN today. Maybe it's a nickel package. I don't know. I just know he looked good doing it. But no, he did. He looked really good today.
He did, man.
But as good as let's talk about a couple other guys real first too. I thought Ethan Long had a solid day.
Yep.
Real physical in coverage, knew where he was supposed to be, made some plays on the ball. Luke Talich had a really nice day today, too. They tried to beat him deep a couple times on slot fades, and Luke was all over it. I thought he had a really nice day. He has slimmed down. I was talking about this, Luke looks a little thinner than he did in the fall. And I went and looked at the updated roster. He's down 12 pounds, and you could tell. Not running-wise, but you could just tell he'd slimmed down. But I thought Luke had a really nice day today as well. Those two guys had a good day. But, Trev, as good as Dallas Golden was today, and as good as Jaden Sanders and Nick Reddish and Joey O'Brien were today, there was one cat that just was like, oh, yeah, he's that guy. And that's Tay Johnson.
I know the kind of thing that we've said a lot today is it's the first practice, but I'm willing to put my stamp on it. Tay Johnson might mess around and be an All-American this year. That dude moves differently.
Mm-hmm.
He does. I mean, now it's his second spring of being safety, knows where he's going to be at on the field. He's very instinctive. His range is insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the interceptions that he made today on the far hash when he came over from the hash, and then it was the deep route to Jordan Faison.
Mm-hmm.
That was very, to a degree, because Kyle Hamilton came from the far hash, but it felt very Kyle Hamilton, Florida State-esque. It was so impressive.
But Kyle Hamilton coming from the far hash was on a rollout.
Yeah.
This was a drop back, and you could see it. So one of the things I love that Notre Dame does, and I appreciate it, it's not for us, it's for the coaches to be able to look, but when a play happens, they'll just keep playing it on loop on the big screen until the next play happens. And again, it's so the coaches can look up and see stuff. It's not for like, hey, we'll throw this bone to Driscoll. But I'm going to tell myself that's why they do it. It's so we can see it, which has made evaluation better because I can watch this drill and then, like watch this one live, and then go back and watch the video of the play to my right. So I get to evaluate more. But so you go back and you look at it. And when the ball leaves CJ, when CJ gets right here, Tay is on the hash, and he gets over there and just like picks it off clean. Like and you saw it right away. Like as soon as the ball left CJ's hand and Tay takes off, you're like, oh, he's gonna pick that one. And sure enough, he did. And I thought Mark Zachary, that was one of his better coverage plays of the day. I thought that Jordan maybe had like a half a step on him, but Tay comes over and just picks that thing off. And then that was the first pick he had. Was another play where he was actually the field safety, and he picks off a backside seam because they rolled their coverage, and Jalen Sneed did a great job of getting underneath Cooper Flanagan, who came from a 3-by-1 front side backside seam, gets underneath him so CJ can't throw it on a rope. So CJ gets it high, but still tries to throw it on a rope, and Tay comes over and picks it off. And then there was another one where Tay was about to light a receiver up, but they didn't have pads on, so he kind of goes low to try to avoid it, and that was a little bit of a scary moment. But his range today, Trav, was unbelievable. And it wasn't just those two highlight reel plays. He just was constantly around the ball. Tay had a really, really good day. Really good day.
Yeah, he did. And I'd echo the same sentiment about Adon Schuler. Adon Schuler had a similar day to Tay Johnson, just without like the big highlight reel plays.
Mm-hmm.
Always around the ball, what you would expect from a third-year starter or a guy getting ready to go into his third year starting. It was a good day for both of those safeties.
I want to know who talked trash, who said something to Don in the locker room to piss him off, because he was playing with a little bit of chippiness today. Yeah, he was getting after it a little bit today. He was.
The first full day of pads will be a fun one for that team.
Yeah.
Both sides of the ball. I'll say this. I know we're done talking about the offense, but I think both sides of the ball wanted to get after it a little bit today.
Yep.
You could tell. Offensive line was playing with a little bit more pop. Defensive line was playing with some pop, but Adon Schuler might take somebody's head off this season. I mean, he was very impressive today. That's for sure.
Yep, he really was.
Let's wrap up the defensive talk, Brian, and talk a little bit about the linebacking core. This one is a little bit different to talk about because we didn't see Drake. We saw Madden Framo very lightly. We didn't see Kingston. We didn't see a whole lot of Kahanu Key out there. So it was a lot of young guys and Jaden Osbury and Jalen Sneed. So, but what we saw, there was still some good. We can work kind of back to front if you want, like how we did with the secondary, go young guys first.
We can. Just one thing to point out is I don't really take a lot. I didn't pay a ton of attention to the linebackers today outside of drills, because I don't know what you're going to really tell about from linebackers out on a day like today outside of how they moved around in drills and 7-on-7. I don't really care about how they played an inside run and stuff like that because there's no pads. They can't tackle. But it should be worth noting that when they did go to the first team, it was Jaden Osbury at Mike, and we had speculated that might be what they do. It was Jaden Osbury at Mike and Jalen Seed at Will. Second team was Teddy Rizak at Mike. That actually surprised me a little bit. And then Ko'okia at Will. And then, of course, as we expected, Thomas Davis Jr. was the Mike with the third team. But I thought that was interesting to say. So, yeah, we can start the young guys. A guy that is out as far as can't do any contact. He's not even in a helmet or anything. He's able to move around. Is Jacoby Clapper. He was listed at 6'1", 209 in the winter roster. He checked this updated roster. He was 6'1", 230, and he looks it. He had a complete body transformation. I honestly didn't know who it was at first. I was like, who? Because there was a rep where him and Kahanu Kia were taking a rep together. No helmets. They were just going through a drill together. And I looked at him like, who? I know that's Kahanu, but who the heck is that? It's not Ko'o because he's in a uniform. It's not bad for him. He's in a uniform. It's not Kingston because he can't run. And it's not Drake because he doesn't look like Drake. And I'm like, dude, is that Jacoby Clapper? And then he turns around, I'm like, dude, that was Jacoby Clapper. I mean, he is rocked. But what got me was on that drill, they read step, and then explode downhill. And when Jacoby was doing his read steps, he looked really clean. But when he planted and got downhill, I mean, he was like shot out of a cannon getting downhill. I was like, okay, like that was impressive athletically. Now we don't know if he can read a defense or read the offense or any tackle, but man, he can move. That impressed me. And I thought Thomas Davis, Jr. was a lot like the offensive guys. He was drinking out of a fire hose, baby, to use an old coach's cliche. But athletically, Thomas is an impressive kid. This is my first time seeing Thomas in person. He's built really well. He's 6'2", 225, very long arms. Like he's kind of got some edge lineman type arm length, it looks like. Very smooth athlete, Trev. He's a very fluid athlete. He doesn't look as fast as he is because he's not twitchy. He's not like explosive. He's just smooth. And you're going, he covered a lot of ground there, even though it may not look like it. Very different type of athlete than some of the other guys they have that are very sudden. Thomas is not. He's like flow, get to the ball. Like, man, he covered a lot of ground there. He had a solid day physically. Now the next step is learning the defense and all that kind of stuff. But he's a rangy athlete. I liked what I saw from him.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Davis impressed me athletically. He's very smooth. He has really good change of direction. There was one drill, and I won't get too much into it, but they're basically working on run fits, and he fitted to the wrong gap. But the second he knew he made the wrong read, planted with his inside foot, opened up his hips, and made up ground. Mm-hmm. Now, they weren't going up against Nolan James running at full speed. It was like one of the GAs that was helping with the linebacker room. It was not to test your hitting power or if you could tackle. It was just reading run fits. Mm-hmm. But it was still just the natural athletic movement that he had was really strong today. Once that light bulb goes on for him, I'm going to be really excited to see what Thomas Davis Jr. looks like in fall camp. Mm-hmm. Like once he has this spring of, getting his feet under him and getting gathered a little bit, with every passing practice, things aren't as new anymore. He's a player that I'm excited to see.
Yep,
once fall camp hits.
Agreed.
Those were kind of Thomas. I'll be honest. Thomas Davis Jr. was kind of the linebacker that I watched quite a bit today. Mm-hmm. I mean, how you talked about Jordan Faison of like, hey, like I've seen him play in big moments. I've seen what he's done. That's how I felt about Osbury and Snead.
Exactly.
Like, it was like, hey man, I know what I'm
to expect. That's why I was happy with how Jaden and Jalen Snead played today, because I had zero desire to pay attention to what they were doing today. Because, like, number one, I can't watch 100 guys in one practice. I can't. And to give any kind of detail on what they're doing. There's just some guys I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to watch this group as much. But Jaden and Jalen kept flashing, like all practice. Like, I'm not trying to pay attention to them, but then just Jalen comes out of nowhere or Jaden comes out of nowhere and they're making plays. I thought that Jalen C looked really good in coverage today. That was good to see. But yes, you are correct, Trev. I thought as a duo, those guys moved very well. They looked good doing it. They were good in coverage, getting a lot of range. I didn't, and honestly, I didn't get to see a whole lot of Teddy Rizak and Ko Okia today either. I think Ko, the thing is, he looked a little bit tighter hip wise than some of the other guys, but he's downhill, can get downhill pretty quickly, but his change of direction looked a little bit stiff today. I thought could have just been footwork, but he looked a little bit stiff today, but he's filling out quite nicely.
Yeah,
he really is. But I didn't get a chance to see a lot of Teddy and Ko, honestly, because I don't really pay a lot of attention to running backs and linebackers on days like this outside of how do they look athletically, because can you really tell about a linebacker when he doesn't have pads on? You really can't tell a lot. So that's why I try to focus on the linemen, because I wanted to see how the linemen ran around. You watch drills for 2 minutes of the linebackers, like, yep, they all look great. Let me go down and look at the defensive linemen. That's kind of was how I was today.
Brian, we're getting ready to transition, talk some Notre Dame recruiting, big recruiting weekend that's going on this weekend. But before we do, any final thoughts of just the practice as a whole before we switch over?
Yeah, Trev, I feel like today was a very competitive practice. It was a good first day. It was a good, hey, they're not, I'm not like, okay, honey, go up to my wife. Hey, honey, listen, I know that we got to pay the mortgage next month. I get that. But follow me here. I was thinking about taking that mortgage money and betting it on Notre Dame to win a Heisman. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Because of today. But what today was about, okay, I was wanting to see this. I was hoping to see this. I was curious about this. And in reality, like, all of those things that we saw were all confirmed as good as we hoped, or honestly better. There was nobody that I saw today that we were hoping to see something from where I was like, yeah, other than just Devin Fitzgerald is just well behind the other guys and just the technical things and stuff like that. But like athletically, I thought Devin looked really good. I mean, he's smooth. He caught the ball well. There was nobody where I was like, okay, that guy just isn't where I thought he was going to be. And, this guy isn't this and this guy isn't that. And I mean, athletically, everybody looked the part. The weight gains from the freshmen are there, but they're moving. And it was just one of those, you hope that today looked like it did, and it did. It didn't disappoint. The offense won some battles, defense won some battles, O-line won some battles, D-line won some battles, receiver won some battles, DBs won some battles. And I honestly expected the defense to be more dominant than it was. Normally on day one, the defense dominates, even without pads on. But the reason they didn't dominate today wasn't because of any kind of, I'm a little bit nervous about the defense. It was just like, dude, this offense is really talented. That's why there was this back and forth today. It's because it's like, dude, yeah, I know that Chaz got beat there, and I know that, this guy got beat there, and I know that Mark Zachary got beat there, but like, dude, that was a great route. What a great ball. Like, yeah, you're going to get some dudes on that other side too. And that made for some great competition, and just kind of confirms, like, this team is really good. And I didn't see a lot of bad mistakes outside of, honestly, the only big mistakes we saw today were from like freshmen, and then CJ trying to force a couple balls. But like, overall, it was a pretty clean practice. He had one fumble, couple little post practice scraps at the end, just pushing and shoving, which is part of football, especially early in camp. I was happy. And there were some guys that surprised me. There's some guys like, okay, he looked a little better than I thought he was going to look. And some guys maybe we weren't talking. We haven't talked a whole lot about Ty Washington this offseason. So to see him just like with a reshaped body, it's like, okay. To see Jack Larson, I mean, we were up there, I mean, Jack's arms are like, okay, Jack's clearly putting in some work in the weight room. Like, he's noticeably thicker in the upper body. Why? As I was sitting there talking to him, I know if I want to play, I got to be able to go block. I got to be able to move people in the run game. So that's what I'm working on, and how that's helped him as a route runner and things like that. You're like, dude, even those guys are like putting in work and looking good today. It gets you excited about what this team could be. And best part, I didn't see anybody limp off the field afterwards. So it's always good. But yeah, it was a great first day. Very, very good first day.
Going into a practice like today, there was one overarching thing that I wanted to see. And yes, I wanted to confirm if, the intel that we had on the offensive line and what that potential alignment was going to be was what it was. I wanted to see CJ just out there throwing the rock around. There were a lot of things that I wanted to see, but overarching, we've spent the last couple of months talking about, is this team going to come out with a fire? We've heard coaches talk about, it's like, they're so much farther along. This has been such a great offseason. They're taken to the weight training program. And I wanted to make sure that wasn't just a lot of lip service. Mm-hmm. Now, I have all the reason in the world to trust Marcus Freeman and this staff, and he doesn't say anything that's untrue. Sometimes that's great. Other times it's like, come on, dude. You know what I mean? But overarching, I wanted to see if this was going to be a team that was still upset about what happened on December 7th. I wanted to see if this was a team that was still upset about the backlash at the very mature decision that they made to sit out of the bowl game. And if they were going to come out here and compete and do all these different things, and they did that. They checked a lot of those boxes for me.
Trev, can I ask you a question? Is turning down a trip to the NIT the same as turning down the Pop-Tarts Bowl? I'm just curious.
I don't know, man. All I know is I feel bad for any fan base that gets robbed of the opportunity to watch their team play in the NIT, especially after, the fuss that fan base made about Notre Dame not playing in a game dedicated to Pop-Tarts. So
yeah, it's interesting.
It is what it is, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I was curious about your thoughts on that, since everybody got so booty hurt about Notre Dame sitting that out. Like I haven't seen the same furor from people about them not playing in the NIT. Just was curious, Indiana, for example, being one example of turning down a trip to the NIT. So I just thought that was a little bit interesting.
It's one of those conveniences, is, like when football is better than basketball, they're a football school. And then when basketball is better than football, they're a basketball school. It's one of those conveniences, I suppose.
Because they've been a football school for 3.5 minutes, so just curious about that. We're talking about Indiana, by the way.
Folks, that is going to do it for part 2 of today's show here on the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Don't go anywhere. We're getting ready to preview Junior Day, a massive recruiting weekend for Notre Dame coming up. But before we get there, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends and family. Anybody that loves Notre Dame and college football as much as you do. But as always, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All right, Brian, to wrap up today's show here on the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Got a little bit of recruiting talk to take us home today. And this weekend, Notre Dame has Junior Day, and there is a lengthy list of players that are going to be on campus. And I believe it was yesterday you talked about how this is one of the most impressive Junior Day lists that you have seen Notre Dame have in quite some time.
It is. I mean, and it's technically, even calling it a Junior Day is a little bit misleading now, because like half the guys on there are 28 kids. And there's even a couple 26 kids on campus from the Notre Dame class. But, Trev, it's one of those things where you're not really sure how things are going to go when you have a big transition like Notre Dame had. You hire some new staffers on recruiting. Kenny Sanders comes in from Penn State. DJ Bryant comes in from Penn State. Myron Tungavaloa-Mosa transitions to a non-recruiting role. And, you lose Al Washington, who had been putting together a really impressive D-line board. You lose Mike Mickens, who had emerged, in my opinion, as the best, developer / evaluator / recruiter of secondary players in the country, especially corner. That was an impressive board. You already have 3 commits. Your linebacker board was a little weird, to be honest with you. Like Ellis McGaskin a lot, like Amari Irvin a lot. Didn't love the idea of 2 6-foot guys kind of playing together, but and that board's a little weird. And then, it wasn't even in a great spot. Then Brian John Marie comes in. You're like, how are they going to really build this? You know what I mean? And then you look at the board and you're like, okay, this is a pretty flippin' loaded group of guys. And now, can they close? Can they finish? Those questions will have to be answered down the road. But I don't know that I've ever seen this level of talent coming in this early for an event like this. And now part of it is this was part of their plan. This is why they didn't have guys coming on campus in January. They wanted to get out on the road, put the board together, not bring a kid in January just because Mike Mickens liked him and Aaron Henry or the new DB coach hasn't had a chance to evaluate him yet. You know what I mean? And say, hey, look, let's get on the road. Let's go see all these kids. Let's evaluate. Let's build these relationships, see who we really want, see who's really legitimately interested in us, not just someone who wants to be us to be part of one of his 12 visits that he does in January. but who are we really after? And that's what they did. And honestly, I think the strategy came out of necessity because they had to do that last year. And now you fast forward a year ago, they're like, dude, that worked out really well. Like being patient, putting the board together, then just having a bunch of kids come in during spring practice. We went outside the number one class in the country. Let's maybe replicate that a little bit. Now, you've got to build the relationships and all that kind of stuff. But to see the group that they're bringing on campus this weekend, it's an amazing group, man. It really is. And there's a couple positions even that are really loaded. Some are smaller, but there's some really impressive 27 and 28 prospects on campus this weekend.
I agree completely. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of break these down a little bit by position group and highlight some of the top level guys that are coming in here. And Brian, where we're going to start is a position group that we've actually talked about already for quite a bit, and talking about defensive line recruiting. We've talked about how impactful the 27 and 28 class is. Heck, a lot of them are from Chicago. You could feast on an entire defensive line class in 27 and 28 alone. So let's talk about some of the defensive lineman prospects that are going to be on campus here at Junior Day.
So for you board members, for you premium board members, I would encourage you. I actually did a breakdown on the board that'll go more in depth than what we're going to do here, but I actually did an entire defensive line breakdown of the players' talent that are on campus. And then also the ability to, where things stand from a recruiting standpoint. So, but this visitor list on the defensive line is ridiculous, Trevor. I mean, you've only got, it's really mostly defensive ends. There's only one interior guy, and that's Braden Parks. And I don't think that was an accident that Braden Parks is the only interior guy on campus this weekend. He's a must-get recruit for Notre Dame. They really, really want him in this class. They want him and David Fuller-Runshoe. Now there's other D tackles they really like, but those are like the top two. We've got to get those kids. They're talented, they're big, they're athletic, and they're in our backyard. So I think it's very important to get Braden on campus this weekend and impress him. Like, this is a big visit. Like right now, I think Notre Dame's the leader, but Michigan, Miami, Oregon, a couple other teams are really, coming along. Miami's really putting the full court press on Braden. This, he's been doing it. He's been building that relationship with Charlie Partridge, which is good. This is going to be his chance to see Coach Partridge in action. This meeting, this getting together, watching him coach, and then just the talks and the things that I think are going to come out of this is going to tell us a lot about whether or not Notre Dame's going to be able to close on Braden Parks. And they need to. But he's a very talented player, big kid, productive. I mean, he plays on the same D line as a kid that is, in my opinion, the number one D end in the 28 class, 5-star kid, top 10 recruit. And then they had another D tackle named King Liggins, who I liked a lot too, who signed with Illinois last year. And Braden still went out and had 21 and a half tackles for loss and 10 sacks. 21 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks this past year for a defense that won a state championship. So, Braden's a big-time player. He's a Notre Dame fit in every way imaginable. It's just you got to close. And, of course, when you talk about the D-line, he's where it starts as far as the D-tackle board for who's going to be on campus this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a highly talented kid. He's somebody that, to your point, I echo a lot of the same sentiments. Notre Dame fit. He would add to an already very talented defensive tackle room. Definitely one that Notre Dame is going to have to close on for sure. But I know you mentioned he's the only interior guy in there. There's a lot of talented edge pieces coming in, man.
Yeah, there's 328 kids and 327 kids coming on campus, and all of them are 4-star recruits, and all of them are ranked very high. See, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 4 of the 6 are ranked as a top 15, I believe top 15. I'm just checking one kid I'm not completely sure of. Let me check him. Yes, 4 of the 6 are ranked as a top 25 national recruit by at least one service. And 5 of the 6 are ranked as a top 100 recruit by 5 of the 6, by one of the recruiting services. Actually, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that 247 had Aiden O'Neill as a top 100 recruit. All 6 of them are ranked as a top 100 recruit by at least one recruiting service. Like, that's the kind of talent you've got coming on campus this weekend. You've got Zyron Forstall, who's a kid from IMG Academy, transferred there from New Orleans. Very talented player, 6'3", 235, twitchy, can play off-ball linebacker. Like he's like a guy that would have back in the day been like a 3-4 outside stand-up outside linebacker and just been a monster. Can play in a 4 down, can play in a 3 down, can be a movement piece where you can kind of get him off ball and move him around and blitz him from different places. Like he almost could do what Kingston and Jalen Sneed have done the last couple of years. Like he could literally, he's a defensive end that could do that role for them that they had in their sub packages. Right now I would say Notre Dame's not his leader, but they've just been kind of quietly lurking in the shadows in that recruitment. From what I've been told, talking to Sean, talking to some other people that are connected to Zyron, his family is very much into we don't just care about our son going somewhere to get a football degree. We want our son to go somewhere and get developed off the field as well. And that's part of the attraction that Notre Dame has right now with him. This visit is honestly going to be a make or break visit with Zyron. If you come out of this visit and you've jumped in his top 2 or 3, you're going to have a shot to get an official and be in a position where you might be able to land him. If you don't, then I think you're just going to fall even further behind Texas A&M, Miami, and LSU. So I think this is a very important visit for Zyron. And then you also have KJ Green. This has been a very interesting recruitment, Trev. It is impossible not to watch KJ Green and think Julian Aguara. It's impossible. Body type, just how he plays, all of it. It's really hard. Now, this is a kid that Notre Dame has been on for a while. The problem has been they haven't been able to convince him to visit yet until now. Like they've been on him for a year. High on him. He was a guy that they really tried to make a push for last year during Irish Invasion, or not for Irish Invasion, but for the pot of gold. Like they really liked what he brought to the table, and they just haven't been able to convince him to come up for a visit. So he is coming up this weekend. I don't feel great about where Notre Dame stands, but over the last maybe 2 weeks is the first time I really felt like Notre Dame had like any real momentum with them, where it was more than just I'm visiting just to see what it's like. Where it's like, I'm visiting to see what it's like. Like this visit's crucial because I feel like this is one of those visits, Trev, where if they're going to have a shot with him, they're going to have to get going on him now. And we're going to pull up some film here in a second of just some of these guys as we're talking about it. But KJ, 6'4 plus, 210, 215, string being athlete, smooth, also has some explosiveness. His production last year was absolutely stupid. I mean, it really was. He had 40 tackles for loss and 15 sacks last year, or 18 sacks last year, which is just really, really nuts. And he's not even close to understanding how to get the most out of his ability. He can run. He's smooth. He's got exceptionally long arms, which you're going to see in the video here. Really big time player, Trev. I'm a big fan of KJ Green, but at the same time, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Right now, they're on the outside looking in amongst his top schools, but that's why these visits are so important. You can't have really a shot with a kid like this until you get him on campus. You really can't. And now that he's on campus, now you've got to take your shot, right? Like, well, why are you spending so much time on a guy you don't have a great shot with? Because that's what it takes to recruit like a big dog. Sometimes, I mean, remember what we told you guys last year before Javion Osborne visited? I was like, guys, they don't really – like even the Notre Dame coaches were telling me, we don't think we have a shot with him. He's going to Michigan. But, hey, the kid's going to visit. We're going to swing we're going to take our swing. We're going to take our shot. We're going to shoot our shot. And guess what happened coming out of the visit? He was all Notre Dame after that and never faded. I remember talking to somebody at Michigan, and they were like, I don't know what happened during that Notre Dame visit, but our conversations were a complete 180 coming out of that visit. That's why you bring a kid like KJ Green in. Maybe you come out of this visit and you're in the exact same place you were before, and then you know, like, okay, this just isn't a kid we're going to get. But you swing, you shoot your shot. Because there's the occasional, we didn't think we were going to get this kid, but then he comes on the visit. He's blown away. He's a great fit. He realizes how well he fits into the defense. He realizes how he fits into the culture at Notre Dame. Because everybody I've talked to thinks that he's a Notre Dame kid. But he's got to be convinced of that. And, that's kind of where we're at.
Definitely love the Julian Okora comp. He's very, very talented, very twitchy. But I'm with you. And I'll tell you one thing, Charlie Partridge is going to have no ease into this recruiting train that's already kind of been rolling here with Notre Dame in the trenches the last couple of seasons. He's going to have to get to it right away along with the rest of that recruiting staff. Yeah. But I'm with you, man. It's sometimes you just need to get players like that on campus.
Yeah,
sometimes you can change everything around.
You do. And that's also true for the next kid we're going to talk about, and that's Aiden O'Neill from Don Bosco Prep. It's been a while since Notre Dame has got a guy from Don Bosco. Aiden's a very different type of player from these other kids that we've talked about, Trev. Like, these guys are all, long and twitchy and explosive. Aiden is, I don't want to say he's like Riley Mills because I think he's got more of an outside potential, but he's 6'5", he's 250, he's a power guy. He's still a little bit raw technically. There's times on this clip you're going to see him come off and, not really be – okay, he's a little choppy, but when he comes off and just lets it rip, you see a pretty darn good, powerful athlete. He's not quite as loose in the hips as some of the smaller guys to be expected, but he's a real powerful kid. He's really high cut, plays with pretty solid pad level for his size, smart kid, powerful kid, good athlete. And he's another guy that Notre Dame's going to try a push for. So he's a guy that's new to the board. The previous recruiting staff and defensive line coach weren't as high on Aiden O'Neill. He didn't get offered till February. And it was the new recruiting staff and Charlie Partridge that really liked him and are making a push for him. Now, the interesting thing is the reason that Notre Dame has been able to make such a hard push work for him is because even though he doesn't have a relationship with anyone from Notre Dame that goes back for a long time at Notre Dame, 2 new back office recruiting guys were hired this offseason, Kenny Sanders and DJ Bryant. They were both in the Penn State recruiting office, and they played a big role in Aiden O'Neill loving Penn State, and Penn State's considered his leader. A lot of that is because of the work that Kenny Sanders and DJ Bryant did. Well, now they both work at Notre Dame, and they're a big reason why he got offered. And then, of course, now Charlie Partridge is all over him as well. And that's why you've seen Notre Dame go from they're not even in it with this kid, they haven't even offered this kid, to now not only is he coming this weekend, his official is already scheduled. So this weekend will be really big, Trev. You've got to close that gap with Penn State and a couple other schools. And this weekend gives you a chance to do that with Aiden O'Neill.
Definitely a good spot. Again, just like a lot of the other kids, it's good to get him back up on campus or get him onto campus, and now they're major players. And now it's just about starting the process to closing. Absolutely. Start building out that relationship as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing, Trev, is you are a little bit behind the 8 ball with some kids, and it's nothing you can do about it. But when you go from one position coach to another, especially as early in the process as they did, you have to allow that position coach or the new recruiting staff that you hire to have a say on who you go after, and make sure that they're bringing in guys that they view as, hey, this is what the kind of player I want to work with. And they've allowed them to do that. Now, in some instances, that means you're on the same guys that they were on before. KJ Green, old staff loved him, new staff loves him. You look at Abraham Cisse, Braden Parks. There's a lot of guys like that the old staff is higher on than the old staff wasn't as high on David Fuller-Runshoe because he came at camp at Notre Dame last year and didn't look great at camp. Well, that's why you don't make big decisions like that based just off camp. But that's a conversation for another day, Trev. New staff came in and said, yeah, I know the camp might have been good, but I don't care. I wasn't at that camp. I'm telling you what this kid can do on film, and he's a monster. And so that's why David Fuller-Runshoe is a much bigger target now than he was before. Jackson Vaughn was a big target of the previous staff. So was Cam McGee, and they still are big targets of the current staff. So you've got to allow the new staff to kind of put their twist on it. But when that happens, you're going to have to be behind the 8 ball a little bit, and you're going to have to get caught up. And that's going to be a big part of what this weekend is all about for the current staff. Is they're going to have to be able to go out there and say, okay, you got to now go put your stamp on it, and you're either going to be able to make a move with some of these kids, or you're going to have to move on from some of these kids because you're just not in it with them the way you need to. And now you're using your energy in an unproductive manner. because you're going after guys that you just don't have a legitimate shot at. So that's why this weekend is going to be big for those guys. But like somebody else in the chat, they're pointing out Ian Premer is another one that we didn't think. Now, Notre Dame had a better shot, I think, than we all realized, but he didn't talk to the media, and so we didn't know. We were going off of what, people at other schools were saying. But Notre Dame didn't think they were going to get Ian Premer going into that last week. But that's why you shoot your shot. The previous staff would have bailed on a lot of these kids. Like, we're not going to get KJ Green. Let's not even waste our time. This staff is like, well, I guarantee you we won't get him if we stop recruiting him. You know what I mean? So can promise you we won't get him. So what if he comes, visits, doesn't love it, and goes somewhere else? So what? You shot your shot.
At least now you know.
Exactly. But sometimes it just takes that one or two kids where they come and like, dude, this is this place. I didn't think it was going to be like this. It's way better than I thought. And, go from there. And that's why you shoot your shot. But hey, let's get into the 28 kids, Trev, because Notre Dame is going to bring in 3 kids on campus this weekend in the 28 class. The first one, obviously, is another local standout. That is Cam McGee, who is a legitimate, right now, today, 5-star player. Like right now, he's a 5-star player. And we're going to not talk a ton about Cam because we've already talked about him a lot on this channel. But this is a stud, Trev. This is 6'3", 240, 235, 240, twitched up, athletic, explosive, highly productive, advanced, anything you want to say about Cam. And like the one thing that you could critique about him, about being a concern, is he's not real tall. He's listed at 6'3". I don't know that he's 6'3". He might be 6'2", 6'2.5". But the great thing is, number one, he's super long, which makes up for the height. But the way he plays, it's almost kind of like his height is a part of his game. He gets under guys' pad level. He can bend and get around the corner like he just did right there. This is one of those kids, Trevor. You have a 5-star kid who talked to Sean Davis. He's talking to Sean. He tells Sean what he's looking for in a school. And his second and third things are about academics and cultural fit. And you're like, this kid is like a Notre Dame kid through and through. This is a must-get recruit in 28. It's way early. I don't see Cam. I mean, maybe he decides in a month and a half that I'm over recruiting. I doubt that. I think this is one that's going to go a long way. So what your goal now with Cam is, he knows that he's a fit at Notre Dame in a lot of other ways. Now you've got to convince him that this is also the best place for him to become an elite football player. And that's what this weekend's going to be about. It's just, hey, here's what we do. Here's how I coach. Here's what I can turn you into. So he's a big time guy that you've got to go get.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I sat down and watched this film together a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't believe you that he was a 28 kid. I didn't. I mean, this is an exceptionally talented player, probably one of the best ends in the country right now, regardless of class.
Yep.
I mean, this dude is nuts.
Yep, agree.
Definitely a must get. I'm with you.
Agree. Let's talk about the next, and I'm just going in alphabetical order right now. We're going to talk about Cam Toomey, who is a young man from Saratoga Springs in New York, ranked as a top 100 player by 247 Sports. Notre Dame just offered Cam like a week or two ago. He got offered in early March, and Notre Dame's all over him. Penn State offered him, Rutgers, Boston College, Syracuse, a lot of Northeastern offers so far. Notre Dame was really the first national offer, like of big-time schools. Cal's offered him, but they're not a big-time school. Very interesting player. Cam does everything at Saratoga Springs. He's caught like 10 passes last year. He carried the ball 11 times. He had 6 kick returns and averaged over 30 yards a return. He also has punted the ball like 28 times the last 2 years. I mean, he literally does everything for Saratoga Springs. And he's a great motor, really good physique, 6'3", 240, 245. You can see the length, Trev, very long arms. Got a little bit of tightness in the hip. So but it's not something where it's like it's a huge thing. It's just kind of finding a little small thing. Really nice burst off the line. Strong kid. You can see how powerful he is. You see that length. He's got a lot of tools. He needs to get coached up a lot, but he's a flipping sophomore in high school. You know what I mean? Like, you expect that. I think we get spoiled when we watch a guy like Cam McGee, that we don't appreciate that Darian Prescott and Jackson Vaughn, who's actually is probably a bad example because he's pretty coached up pretty well too. But you see a guy like Cam Toomey and you see Darian Prescott and they're not as advanced, and you're like, wow, the guy's going to need a lot of work. Well, he's a sophomore. Those guys are just unicorns in that they're so advanced, but there's a lot to like here. Long way. I shouldn't say long way to go. Don't know a lot about Cam. We had a story up on him. Brian Alt talked to him. Don't know yet where he stands with Notre Dame, where Notre Dame stands with him, all those type of things. But that's what this visit is about, right? It's sort of a, we offered you and let's get to know each other. But I got to say this, Trev, if the kid's making the trip to campus within a couple weeks of him getting offered, you have to think that there's some legit interest there.
Oh, absolutely. This is not a trip that you would make if you're just like, yeah, I guess we'll just see what it's about. I'm with you completely. Like this is very intentional for both sides, but I'm with you, man. You always have to take, with the exceptions of talents like Cam McGee, 28 film with a grain of salt. We're talking about somebody that's maybe 16 years old.
Yeah, you're looking for tools. You're not looking for a guy that knows how to play the position like a senior in college right now. You're looking for tools. If you're Charlie Parcher, like, look, dude, that's what I get paid good money to do, is to teach this kid how to play. Can he line up? Can he bend? Can he change direction well? Does he have explosiveness? Does he have power? Does he have any kind of feel for the game? Like, that's all I know. I can coach up the hand play and the pad level and all this. I can coach that up. Does the kid have the traits? And when you watch a kid like Cam Toomey, he's got the traits. I mean, you saw that little double move he had earlier. You see the motor, you see the get off, but look at that length. You can see how long he is. You can't get into his body when he uses his hands well because he's so long. He's got some really heavy hands too, Trev. Look at that bend. That's what you want to see right there, right? Like, I could teach him how to use his hands. Can he do that? Look at that. Look at that bend. That's an impressive play right there. That you can't always teach. But You're seeing that from a sophomore, and you're like, okay, this is a kid that we like. So this is a very intriguing offer, and I'm curious how things go this weekend with him.
Yeah, I am as well.
So last guy that we're going to talk about, Trev, is one of my favorite players in the 28 class. People talk about, who are your favorite players in this class? And Jackson Vaughn is one of mine, and he has been since Irish Invasion. He is a big-time player from Bergen Catholic. Big top 15 overall player, 5-star talent. He was a standout at Irish Invasion. I loved him at Irish Invasion. But I went home that day and I was like, all right, let me see him with pads on, which is a little weird because it's like, okay, I'm watching freshman freshman film. And no, actually it would have been sophomore film. And you're like, okay, let me see what he, actually, no, it would have been freshman film. No, sophomore film, freshman film. No, it's freshman film before this year. Then you say, okay, what's he going to do now as a sophomore? But like as a freshman though, I was like, okay, this kid can play. I mean, at a place like Bergen Catholic, he's playing as a freshman with double-digit tackles for loss and 8 sacks. And he went out and did the same thing this year. Love the get off, love the length. He's athletic. He can change a direction. He's explosive. He's got a great motor. He closes well. Like, this kid's got all – look at that get off, Trev. And he's playing against legit competition, playing in that Northern Jersey Catholic League. So he's playing against offensive linemen that are going to play Division I football. I love Jackson Vaughn. I mean – I've said this, and there's plenty of other guys that I'd love to have in this class, but if you want to talk about like a dream class, Jackson Vaughn, Cam McGee, and Darian Prescott would not only be a dream class for Notre Dame, that's a generational edge class that you get once every 20, 30 years at Notre Dame. Like, it is that you're talking about 3 top 15 players. You're talking about a 3-man group that looks a lot like the one that had Aaron Lynch, Stephon Tuitt, and Ishaq Williams, right? Like, that's how good these kids are. Will Notre Dame get 3 of them, 2 of them, 1 of them? None of them. We don't know that. But this is a kid that clearly likes Notre Dame. You get to know the family at all. You realize he's not at or at Bergen Catholic just to play football. You know what I mean? Like, this kid's a fit at Notre Dame, and this is going to be his, I think, 2nd or 3rd unofficial visit to campus. There's interest there, but he's also a national recruit. Everybody in the country is going to be after this kid. So you're going to need a lot of work, but there's a ton of talent to work with, Trev. I absolutely love Jackson Vaughn's film.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see his junior year film because his freshman and sophomore film is not disappointed. He's very twitchy. He's very long. His get off the line is just exceptional. So, yeah, I'm definitely a Notre Dame fit.
No question. Now, look, here's my thing, Trev, as you look at where this group is. I feel like you've got to get at least one of the 27 ends on campus today and at least one of the 28 ends that are on campus today. I'm not talking about getting them this weekend. I'm talking about eventually getting them into the class. If you really want to move the needle, if you really want to become that program, starting to get more kids like this is important. And look, let's be real. We just talked about it. They got a couple of those guys in last year's class in Ebenezer Utade and Rodney Dunham. They're that kind of player. But now what we need to see that this staff can do is, okay, can you do it again? Can you start stacking those classes together? That's the question that remains to be seen. Yeah, they showed they can do it once, but can they do it year after year? That we don't know. So we spent a lot of time on the D-line class. We'll work a little bit quicker through some of the rest of these, but I just wanted to show that defensive line class because I wanted you guys to all understand and appreciate the kind of we're not talking a lot about Cam Toomey because he's a new offer and all that. But like, if we didn't have all those other kids on campus and it was just Cam Toomey and we're only focusing on Cam Toomey, you're like, dude, let's just say it was only Cam Toomey and Aiden O'Neal. Like, dude, those are dudes, man. Like, those guys can really play. But like, they're not getting talked enough about because there's some other guys that are just ranked higher and have been on the board longer and things like that. So it's a really impressive group. Really impressive group.
Yeah, the talent in the defensive line classes in the 27 and 28 years are just, it's exceptional. And if you're Notre Dame, you got to start becoming a major player for those. You have to be the Texases, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, start landing some of these kids.
Yep.
I'm with you completely. Let's talk about some of the tight ends that are going to be on campus this weekend. Because again, another highly talented group of guys, and some you have pretty good relationships with. Some names I recognize from Irish Invasion from the last couple of years. So definitely have to start making pretty strong impressions, especially on some of the 27 kids.
Yeah, and you said we're going to tight ends, right? Not right, Trev. I'm actually was looking for the visitor list, so you're transitioning to tight end, correct? Okay, just want to make sure I'm on the same page because I was zoning out. Like, where's the visitor list? I'm like, oh shoot, I think he's talking about tight ends next. This is a good group as well, Trev. Like a very important group. So it's obviously not as big of a list as before, but it's a very important list because you're bringing in one of your top guys, and that would be Jackson Dollar. I would argue. Again, this is my opinion. I haven't been necessarily like told this, but I would argue that just based on how aggressive they've been on him, I don't know that there's a more important 2027 tight end on the board than Jackson Dollar. And the crazy thing about him is, as good as he is, he's tall, he's athletic, he is incredibly raw, which means he's not even close to his full potential. And he's I believe a consensus top 100 recruit, but you can see the speed, the pass catching skills. You can see the overall talent. Notre Dame has been on him forever. And I believe he was an Irish Invasion guy. I'm not 100% sure. They had so many of those kids on campus at Irish Invasion. But I'm super high on Jackson Dollar. He's got big time tools, Trev, big time talent. He's such a great fit for what Notre Dame does too. He can do a lot of the movement stuff. He's a physical kid. He'll have to learn to block. But you can line him up in the boundary, you can line him up in the slot. You can do all the things you asked Eli Raridan to do, wing and wraparounds and all that kind of stuff. But he can just flat out run and catch the ball. I mean, just really can fly, and he can really catch the ball. This is a big-time target. And this is the kind of kid you want to close on because as of right now, I would, as of today, I'd say I think Notre Dame's his leader. I think he's the top. They're the team to beat for Jackson Dollar. And so at some point in time, you haven't got a commitment in a while. I think the most recent commitment was wasn't it Xavier Hassan? I think he was the most recent commitment. And so it's been a while since you've landed a commitment. And yeah, you're doing good. And there's a lot of kids that like you and there's all those type of things, but you haven't landed anybody since December. It'd be nice to have a couple guys drop here soon. Now, they went through a similar lull. I'm not panicking because they went through a similar lull last year. But then in April, they started landing some of these guys, and they got Rodney Dunham in, I think, late March, early April. They got Ebenezer Utade in April. So Notre Dame went through a similar kind of early drought last year. if you remember, their previous they got Ben Nichols in December, and then Tyler Merrill on January 30th. Their next commitments didn't come until early April. Now, Rodney Dunham committed on April 10th publicly, but we knew late March that he had committed to Notre Dame. He actually committed before Ebenezer Utade, but Ebenezer went public first. So you're getting into that range where you want to close on some of those guys. But what was it that sealed the deal for Rodney? It was his March visit. What did it for Ebenezer? It was the offseason visit, the early visit. So now it's like, okay, you've done a great job of putting yourself in position. Now it's closing time for some of these guys. And I hope that Jackson Dollar is one of those guys. I'm not saying he will be, because as of right now, I believe that Jackson plans on taking visits, and I don't think he's in any hurry to commit. But he's one of those guys. But Rodney Dunham wasn't planning on committing last year either. It just was like when he visited, he was another guy that Notre Dame had work to do when he visited, but they just knocked it out of the park. And by the time it was over, it was over. You know what I mean? Like, his recruitment was over. You've got to be able to do some of that with some of these guys, and I'm hoping that Jackson Dollar is one of the guys they can do that with, because he's a big time player and would be a big pickup. And he's not just raw toolsy player and all that, but he's also, Trev, he's a highly ranked guy. So I think it would be the kind of pickup that could give you a little bit of momentum. I mean, he's ranked as the number 23 overall player in the country by On3 Rivals. He's ranked number 32 overall by 247, and he's ranked number 82 overall by ESPN. And he grades out as a top 100 caliber player for me as well, with a 5-star upside. So you just hope that they can start closing with some of these kids. That's the key.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And then after popping in the film and taking a look at him, you understand why. Highly talented guy. Haven't seen a whole lot of like run blocking film from him, and
you
with
won't.
The type of,
and even in game film, there's not. This is what he does. You know what I mean? Like he's their their wide receiver. But when he does block, it's skill guys, and he's physical. But that's just a part of the game he's gonna have to obviously have to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, let's get to the next guy, Trev, and that is Cooper Terwilliger, I believe is how you say him. This is a very unique player. He is from South Dakota. I think he's the guy that was hanging out with Ian Premer today on the sidelines. I think. But he's a completely different type of kid than Jackson Dollar, and you're going to see, because he's got some really impressive blocks on his. But he's from South Dakota. The thing I like about him is he does two things really well. He's vertically very fast and off the line. You just saw it on that last play. And the other thing is he's very physical. Like, he's a very physical blocker. You'll see a lot more of the traditional tight end types of, like, look how quickly he gets off the ball there. Reminds me a lot of James Flanagan as a pass catcher. Vertically oriented, seam routes, go routes, corner routes, out cuts, but also a very physical run blocker. He's not as physical as James or as big as James, but his game is very similar to James Flanagan, which makes him a great complement to the styles of Jackson Dollar and then Malik Howard, who's another 2027 tight end thereafter, who's more of a kind of pass catcher first, run guy second. And so Cooper is the complete opposite. He is a bit of an old school tight end. Trev, in an old school, new school tight end, he's more 6'5", 6'6", 220, physical, can block, but also can catch the football. And so he's a very unique kid. Now, again, he's coming from out in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota, but you know who else was? Ian Premer. And so he's a very, very talented player in his own right. Very talented player in his own right.
Yeah, absolutely. Physical, strong kid, really strong hands, good blocks with a really good base already. And I think those skills are going to enhance, obviously, once he gets onto a college campus. Ideally, it's Notre Dame's, but we're starting to see Notre Dame kind of come with a pattern of recruiting duos at tight end that complement each other well. Look at this past class. They didn't bring in two Preston Frizzels. They didn't bring in two Ian Premers. They brought in a pass catching first and then kind of an all around tight end. And I think that's what you got to do. I'm with you.
Agree. Yeah. And after that, Trev, I'll just let Cooper's film go. Those are the only two 2027 tight ends that they're bringing on campus this weekend, but there are 428 kids that they're bringing on campus this weekend. One should not surprise you guys because we've talked about him before. And that's Jack McNamara from Brother Rice. He's a teammate of Cam McGee. He's also a teammate of Braden Parks. A very, very good. He's more of a traditional throwback guy. We'll watch his film down the road a little bit. We're not going to watch that today. But he's a guy that is one of they've only offered, I think, 3 tight ends so far in the 2028 class. I think it's him and Theo Schott, I think, are the 2 tight ends. And I think there might be one other guy that they've offered in the 28 class at that position. But those are guys that we look at and say, hey, those are some of the top guys in 2028. Jack's one of those guys. If Notre Dame wants him and makes a push for him, I think they're going to be tough to beat. I don't know if he's in decision-making mode yet. I don't know if they're in decision-making mode yet. I think this is still kind of relationship building, but he's a guy that's very high on Notre Dame. And then they're also bringing in Trey Euler from Wisconsin, Bennett Conyers from Tennessee, and Breck Brady from Oklahoma. Those are hey, we're building a relationship. Let's see where it goes. None of them have offers. We'll see if any of them get offered coming out of the visit. I could see maybe 1 or 2 of them getting offered coming out of the visit, but those are all good, 6'4", 6'5", quality players as well. So this is a really good tight end board. You've got your top guy in the 27 class, another guy in Cooper Terwilliger that you really like, that you're really trying to make a move on, who I believe Notre Dame would take. If he wanted to come right now, I think they'd take him, because I do think they would like to take 2 tight ends in this class again. And then, of course, you've got one of your top guys in the 28 class. So it's a really good group. But this is a position, Trev, where I could see if there's going to be a surprise commitment over the next month, I could see it being from tight end, whether it's 27 or 28. That's where I could see potentially one of their next commitments coming from. And I'm not even saying who that's going to be. I'm just saying, like, there's some guys that I think are close enough to where a really good visit could put them in the Rodney Dunham, Ebenezer Utade, Javion Osborne category, where once the visit happens, it was kind of over. And so, like, that's where I think stands there. I'm not telling you who that's going to be. I'm not trying to drop a hint, steal a kid's moment, because I don't know who that guy would be right now. I'm simply saying I think they're at least far enough along to where a great visit could do that. Now they just have to actually go out there and have great visits.
Let's dive into the DB group that's coming on campus here, Brian. And this is one of the smaller groupings that's coming onto campus. Not like the D-line group that has a lot of guys coming in. I think it's probably 5 or less than 5 defensive backs coming on between the 27 and 28 class, correct?
3.
There we go.
Yeah. Zayden Gamble is a 27 safety from IMG Academy. He'll be coming on campus today. John Meredith is supposed to visit. I think there's still some uncertainty. I'm kind of in like okay, I'll believe he's coming when he actually shows up, but that's the plan. And then a guy that's already here that we saw today is Phoenix Evans, he's also transferred to IMG Academy, but he was a teammate of Jackson Vaughn at Bergen Catholic last year. A very talented 2028 corner. Notre Dame's been on him for a while. They like Phoenix Evans a lot. Long way to go, but that's a big one. Zayden Gamble, he's kind of like Zyron Forstall, where they're not his, Miami, Florida. There's a couple other schools that are just higher than Notre Dame, but they've just been kind of lurking there for a while. And then they were finally able to get him to on campus. So we're going to know if they're a player for Zayden Gamble this weekend. This is one of those recruitments, Trev, where you're either going to be a player or you just know you're not going to get him. If you don't make a move, and that doesn't mean they have to be his leader, but if you don't make a move where it's like, dude, Notre Dame is now among my top schools with a kid like him, then you got to kind of say, I just don't know that we're using our energy best with this kid because we gave it our shot and we just didn't make that move. Or you make that move and you're like, okay, now let's really ramp this thing up because we made our move with this kid. Now let's really take it to that next level. Same thing with John Meredith. The odds of Notre Dame signing John Meredith are like slim, and almost slim to none. He dropped the top 11 back in early in the winter, and Notre Dame was not on it. And now they're in his top 6. So like the odds of going from not in his top 11 to signing him, not great. But guess what? I mean, you've made your move, and this is a credit to Aaron Henry. I mean, he's done a tremendous job getting in early and getting on John Meredith and convincing, hey, I don't really care where you were with the previous staff. I'm the DB coach at Notre Dame now, and I want you to play for me. I think you can play for me. Talented Texas kid, tall, long, fast, athletic. has legit man skills, also has the kind of range to be a big-time zone player as well, can tackle, can cover, can do it all. He's an elite player. I think he's a top 15 player. I'm going to look up his ranking here real quick, Trev, but I think at least one service has him as the number one ranked quarterback in the country. I mean, actually, they all do. He's ranked 2 overall by Rivals on 3, 5 overall by 247, number 3 overall by ESPN. So this is an elite prospect. Are you going to get him? I have no idea. I don't think so. But if he visits you, how do you know until you get him on campus? So if I'll say this, from what I've heard about John Meredith as a young man, and from what I've heard about him and the people around him, if he makes it to campus this weekend, I think Notre Dame becomes a player. Because I think he's one of those kids that doesn't realize how much of a fit he is at Notre Dame.
Sure.
And then once he gets to Notre Dame, he's like, whoa, like, yeah, this is my place. These are my people. I think he's that kind of kid, but you got to get him on campus first. And until they do, I don't know how much time we want to spend on John Meredith other than the fact that he's a dude. He's an absolute dude. So, we'll see. We'll see. I would say of the top 6, they're 6th right now. But that's why you've got to get him on campus this weekend. If you can get him to commit to an official over the next couple weeks, get him to commit to an official coming out. First of all, get him on campus. 2, within the next week or 2, get him to say, okay, I'm officially visiting Notre Dame on this date. You got a shot. You got a shot. That's the goal. He's not going to come to Notre Dame, fall in love, and like commit tomorrow. That's not happening. You know what I mean? Like, I guess crazier things have happened, but guys, that's not happening. You just want to know that, are we going to get to round 2? Right. That's when we have our shot. Can we get to round 2? It's like you're fighting Mike Tyson right now. I just got to survive and get to round 2. I'm fighting vintage Mike Tyson. Can I get to round 2? And then I'm like, okay, now I got a shot. Now, and that's where Notre Dame is right now with John Meredith. But, why waste your time on a kid like him? Because he's that good. Make him say no. That's what you do with a kid like that. You make him say no. You don't quit before he tells you, guys, I'm not coming to play for you.
Oh, absolutely. And because you're Notre Dame, and this type of talent comes to Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's plain and simple. I agree with you completely.
Yeah. Who's got the best cornerback in the country right now? Notre Dame. What is he? A 6'2" kid out of Texas. What's John Meredith? A 6'2" kid out of Texas. You know what I mean? Like, hey, there you go. Right? So, it'll be, we'll see. We'll see.
We talked about the defensive back position group being a smaller visitor list, and I think the offensive line might have them beat. I think there's 2 guys that's going to be on campus for offensive linemen.
Only 27 kids too, but there are a couple dudes, Trev. Yeah, you've got Cameron Wagner on campus, which is he's a frequent visitor of Notre Dame. He's been on campus several times. Big 6'7" kid, 300 pounds. He impressed at last year's Irish Invasion. He won the O-lineman, top O-lineman award at the camp. Big physical kid. Reminds me a lot of Matty Augustine. I think he can play right tackle for sure, but I could also see him moving inside the guard and being a Sullivan Absher, Charles Jagasol type of like big, tall, not your typical guard body and mauler. But I also see him as a guy that could, be a big physical right tackle, road grader right tackle that can handle his business in the pass game. Just going to depend on kind of how we can develop his game. So, he's actually a bit of a national recruit. Like Texas A&M is one of his top schools. He's kind of getting looked at by a lot of different programs. But, this is a guy that Notre Dame has been on for a while. He's got a really good relationship with Joe Rudolph. Coach Rudolph's done a really nice job with Cameron Wagner of building that connection and all that. And now it's about, trying to seal the deal. But and that's where they're at. He's an Illinois kid, so he's another one of those backyard guys. And you've already got 2 pretty good offensive linemen committed. James Halter's a really good offensive tackle. You got Richie Flanagan. You'd like to get 2 more guys. And there's Cameron Wagner, Leighton Von Brandt, who we'll talk about in a couple weeks when he visits, and then Albert Simeon, who I'm about to talk about. If you can get 2 of those 3 guys, you've got yourself another great class. But Notre Dame's kind of shooting for 3 to 4 offensive linemen in this class. They're not saying no to any of those 3 kids. Like, from what I'm told, they would take any. It's kind of like with last year receiver. Like, yeah, we don't need 5 receivers, but who am I saying no to? You got 105 scholarships we can give out now. Who am I saying no to? You know, and that's how I feel they are in offensive line. So Cameron Wagner's are there. And then the other guy, actually, let's bring up his film because he's that good. Albert Simeon is a big-time player from Louisiana, Trev. He's from Lake Charles, Louisiana. And I see a lot of people say, like, you're not going to get Albert Simeon. And I get it. I have my doubts as well. He's the number 10 overall player in the country, according to On3 Rivals. He's ranked number 36 by 247. And he's ranked number 25 by ESPN. So this is a big-time football player, Trev. Really good size. He's 6'4", 290 to 300 pounds, exceptional length. He plays tackle in high school. I think he can play guard. I think he can play tackle the next level. I believe he's listed as a guard. Let me look real quick. I believe the services list him as an interior offensive lineman, and I get that. But I think he's got some Anthony Knapp to him as well, where I think he could play tackle. But this is one of those unique studs, Trev, and let's pull up his film real quick because y'all are going to love this kid. But he could honestly play all 5 positions to some degree. Now, is he a left tackle? I don't think so. Could he play it like Anthony Knapp played it? Yeah, I think he could. He's a big-time player, you know, super long arms, athletic, physical, mauler type. Here's the interesting thing. Like Texas A&M is considered his leader. There's a couple other schools on him, big time schools on him. But Notre Dame has just always kind of been there as like a don't sleep on Notre Dame. Don't sleep on Notre Dame. He visited in the fall. This is his second unofficial visit. That should tell you a little something about whether or not he has interest in Notre Dame. This is his second unofficial visit. He comes from a family that, look at that length, Trev, and just that power. He comes from a family that is very much into, we want our son to be developed holistically in college, not just, hey, turn our son into a first-round NFL draft pick. Obviously, that's a goal. But you talk to anyone that's ever spent 2 minutes talking to his mom will tell you this kid is different. This family is different. Now, are they going to push him to Notre Dame? No, but it's just they want to make sure that he gets all of that experience and that Notre Dame as a school, his length is exceptional. It's so ridiculous. But they want to make sure that he gets up to Notre Dame and experiences all of it. He had a game day visit last time. Now he gets to do a little bit more of some of the other things, seeing the practice, getting to be around Coach Rudolph and things like that. But they're a legit player here, Trev. If he were to make a decision today, do I think he'd pick Notre Dame? No. Do I think that a great visit this weekend could make Notre Dame a team that could eventually land him? Yes, I do. Because he's a perfect Notre Dame fit. He really is. And Joe Rudolph doesn't go south very often for linemen, Trev. He doesn't. This is a kid that he has been all over from day one. Why? Because this kid is, if you were to say, hey, I'm going to build a Notre Dame offensive lineman in a lab. All right, what do I want? On the field, I want a kid that's got great length and power and athleticism. Check, check, check. I want a kid that's physical and plays with that nasty disposition that's makes us think of the Quentin Nelsons and the Aaron Taylors and the great linemen in Notre Dame. Check, check. Okay. I want a kid with a high football IQ. Check. I want a kid that loves to finish. Check. All right, cool. Now let's talk about the off the field stuff. I want a kid that comes from a great family that will encourage that young man to do more than just football. Check. We want a kid that values the educational opportunities at Notre Dame. Check. We want a kid that says, hey, yeah, football is something that's important to me, but what about when I'm 40 and football's behind me and I've gone to the NFL and I've made all this money? What do I then do? How am I going to make sure I take advantage of those opportunities and for the next part of my life? That's the kind of family he comes from. That's the kind of young man he is. So check, check, check. He really, other than you'd like him to be an inch or two taller, he checks every single box of what you want in a Notre Dame offensive lineman. Elite talent on the field, elite talent off the field, and a great family. Like, this kid's a perfect fit for Notre Dame. He's a big-time player. Big-time player. And you see it on film. I mean, he's ridiculously good. Bends, physical. I mean, he's just throwing kids. and he plays in a pretty good area of Louisiana. So now you see why Notre Dame is put so much into trying to recruit Albert Simeon.
That makes sense.
Stud. Yeah, he's a stud.
This kid loves contact. He'll throw somebody to the ground, look for the next person to go throw to the ground. Like he's literally being a bully, which is what I want out of an offensive
Yes, you
line.
want that 100%. Yeah. He's really good, Trev. Really good. Yeah. I like Albert Simeon a lot.
Real quick, before we talk running backs, what are his measurables? I know you said like preferably an inch taller. Like how?
Oh, I mean, like I'm talking about if you're doing it in a lab, you want guys to be 6'5", 6'6". If someone who could potentially tackle in a lab, like, you know, if you're making them in a lab, you'd say, okay, I'd probably make him 6'5" or 6'6". Like to me, 6'5" is like the perfect height for any because he's not too tall where he can't play center, but he's tall enough to be that range, you know, broad-shouldered tackle. You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. He's 6'3.5", 6'4". He's plenty tall enough to do all that. Fine. I was just saying, like, with the theme that I was saying of like, if I could build a perfect offensive lineman in a lab, I'd probably make it 6'5" instead of 6'3.5".
No,
but it's not something that like, it's not a limiting factor for him.
Sure.
It's just, you know, that would be the thing.
No, I get you, bro. I was waiting for the butt of like, he's a mauler, great fit. He's 5'11", but he absolutely
he's 6'1", but you know, no, he isn't that. Like the only other thing I would have changed is like I wish he was born in Granger, Indiana, instead of Louisiana, because then it'd be easier to convince him to come to play at Notre Dame. But other than that, he's really a great prospect. Will they get him again? I don't know, but that's why this weekend is so important. You know, like because like they're just steadily working, and look, I give Joe Rudolph a ton of credit. He has not backed down from Albert Simeon at all. And, you know, you're doing a great job there. This visit is going to really tell us, okay, can Notre Dame actually get over the top with him? We'll see how the vibe is coming out of the visit, but they're in there. They're not the leader right now, but even national people will say it. I get people sending me screenshots like, hey, is this true? Do you think this is, because like this would happen. Like I don't read stuff, but I have buddies send me stuff that Steve Wiltfong says, or Sam Spiegelman says, or you know, Adam Gorney or Brendan Huffman or Chad Simmons, like all the good national people, right? Like, do you agree with this? This person said this, and I'm going to tell them what I think. And somebody sent me something where I think it might've been Steve Wiltfong said something about like, you know, A&M's the leader, but Notre Dame is like legit a player here. And they're like, is this for real? Cause like the buddy sent it. He refuses to watch Albert Simeon's film because he's like, I don't want to watch film of a kid Notre Dame has no shot of getting, because then it'll just make me sad. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, cool, man. I get it. But he saw that and he asked me like, hey, is this legit? And I was like, no, dude, that's legit. Steve's not BSing you there, Steve. That's not clickbait. They're a legit player for this kid. Would he commit to Notre Dame today if he had to make a decision? No, I don't think so. But like, no, that's legit intel. Like they are a player for him. And that's why this visit is so important. You've got to put yourself on that line with A&M. You know, you've got to go into the spring and summer in that, okay, we're right there with you, and then try to close it out in the summer. If you can do that, like, man, he's a stud. Man, dude, you saw it. But that's the thing I love about him. It's like, you know, this is kind of what I've been talking about for years, Trev. Oh, you know, if you want to get them Southern elite athletes, you got to lower your academic standards. Bull crap. This is a perfect example. There's kids like this all the time. You know, like you don't have to change your academic standards to get Albert Simeon. You just got to put a better product on the field to make it to where he wants to come play for your program. And they've done that. Because if Notre Dame was an 8-4 team, he's not giving Notre Dame the time of day. He'll go to A&M and get a great degree at A&M and play for a team that's just came off a playoff berth. But now that Notre Dame gives you all of it, they're putting guys in the NFL, they're playing for championships, and they have the elite academic piece. Like now that's why kids like this have been around all the time. It's either A, you didn't try to get him, or B, your program wasn't good enough where a 5-star kid like this was going to give you the time of day. And that's what I say, man. Like this is exactly the kind of kid that people say that doesn't exist. Southern kid, elite prospect, all these SEC offers. You got to lower your academic standards to get a kid like that. No, you don't. You just got to put a better product on the field. That's how you get a kid like this. Family's pro Notre Dame. He's pro Notre Dame. You know what I mean? It's just kids like this are the kind of kids that you just say bullcrap. They don't have to lower academic standards to get KJ Green. They don't have to lower their academic standards to get Zyron Forstall. Just like they didn't have to lower their academic standards to get Ebenezer Urtade or Ronnie Dunham or Elijah Golden. You just got to build a program that's good enough for those kids to want to play for. And now they are.
And put in the effort.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Like,
don't quit.
Like, I don't know how to put this simply. Do your job, as Tommy Rees would have said in 2022. Like, that's it. Do your job on the recruiting trail and put in the effort.
Yeah.
Put a better product on the field. Like, sometimes it's just that simple, man. It
Yep.
really is. And
Be
another group that they're going to have to do that with is these running backs that are going to be on campus this weekend. I believe there's 4 that will be.
Yeah, there's 327 kids and 128 kid. The 28 kid from Colorado, I don't know a lot about that one, so I won't speak a lot of that. It's Elijah Cromwell from Colorado. He's a relatively, I don't believe he's been offered yet. He's a relatively new kid to the board. He's from Cherry Creek, which isn't far from where I used to live, Trev. He's ranked as the number 75 player in the country by 247. He's only a 3-star by Rivals on 3. I haven't had a chance to dive into the film just yet, but so I'm very curious to see what that one is. But I would argue, Trev, that the 327 running backs from beyond campus, and that is in alphabetical order, Isaiah Rogers, Trey Segarra, and Lathan Wissington. I would argue that those are the 3 top backs on the board for Notre Dame in 27 right now. And you're getting them all on campus in one weekend. So it's going to be interesting. And Isaiah Rogers recently released, I think, a top 7 or 8, and Notre Dame was in it. I think they're a legit player there. He's from Massachusetts. Trey Segarra, South Carolina, Clemson, some other teams like that are high on the list. I think Notre Dame's a player here. I'm very curious to see how this visit goes. I think this is one of those visits where you either realize that you're just not going to get this kid, or he realizes Notre Dame's not a fit for me, or right, whatever, or you come out of this visit being like, you just went from here to here. You know, like you're now a legit player where now everybody's like, oh crap, Notre Dame's making that move. You know what I mean? Like that's what this recruitment could be. And it's the same thing for Lathan Wissington, who is also a stud. These are 3 really good backs. And I mean, I know some people that like Isaiah Rogers the best, some like Trey Segarra the best, others like Lathan Wissington the best. Which one of those running backs do you want Notre Dame to get? And my answer is yes. Well, would you like this guy over that guy? Yes. What about that guy over this? Yeah. Like, just give me one of these 3 and I'm golden. If you get 2 of them, that's even better. You know what I mean? Like, but you got to get at least one of these guys because they're all legit. Like, are they Jeremiah Love? I don't know. I mean, not many guys are. That's what makes them so unique. But are they on the level of the Jadarian Prices, the Aeneas Williamses, the Audric Estimes, the guys like that? Absolutely, they're on that level. I just don't know if they're on the Jeremiah Love, this guy's going to be the number 4 or number 5 overall draft pick level. But how many backs are like that? These are good football players. And I think there's not as much buzz about them because of Jeremiah Love. I think he's kind of spoiled us all a little bit. And like now we're all looking for the next freak. Well, guess what? That guy doesn't exist. Keemon Spell is not Jeremiah Love, with all due respect. But I think these 3 kids are all really good football players, and I would be happy with any of the 3. But this weekend, I mean, that's why this weekend is so important, Trev, because you want to get a shot at these kids. You want to be able to get these kids. You need to be able to get them on campus this weekend and make your move. Now, make your move doesn't mean that these kids commit. You never know. I mean, you never know. But I think the goal here for Notre Dame this weekend is more so we've got to put ourselves in position to where we're either in that top group or we are the top dog with these kids. You know, and it's different for different guys. Like with Isaiah Rogers, it's about, and Trey Segarra, it's like, can we put ourselves into pole position? With Lathan Wissington, I think it's probably more about, can we get into the fight in that top group? I would say is more of what they're trying to accomplish this weekend with these 3 guys. But look, running backs, it's a big year at running back. It's an important year at running back. We'll just pop in a little bit of film with some of these guys. This is Isaiah Rogers, but it's not so much that like, oh gosh, your running back room is bad. It's just that you can't afford to take steps back. You know, and you had a great running back haul last year. You can't take the year off because as we've seen, Trev, you never know what's going to happen. Injuries, portal, some guys don't develop. There's all types of things that happen that make you say you got to just keep stacking them. And if a kid's willing to commit to you, like these guys, knowing that Javion Osborne and Kedron Young and Jonas Walton and Nolan James Jr. and all those guys are in front of them, then that tells you that kid's got that competitive fire, that he doesn't care who's in front of him. You know, but that's why you got to get one of them. That's the way I look at it. You got to get one of them. So we'll see if they do. I'm going to play the other two kids as we're talking about other positions because I want you guys to watch these running backs. But, Trev, I know you've watched all these kids. What are your thoughts on them as players? Like, are they guys that for you would be like, hey, I think that continues to move the needle, that continues to make sure that the running back board is well stocked, or just give me your overall thoughts.
I mean, I think it just maintains the high level that they've recruited. I mean, it's tough to move the needle forward from what they just had with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I don't know if they're going to come across to recruit in the 27, 28, 29, 30, or 31 class that's going to move the needle from Love. Well, that being said, there is a level that they've maintained at recruiting this position at a high level. And I think all these kids maintain that. I do.
And that's the key. And when I mean move the needle, that's kind of what I'm referring to. You're continuing to move that needle towards what your ultimate goal is, which is a championship, which even with Love and Price, you haven't got yet. It's about just not taking a step back. Yeah. And a step back doesn't mean you don't have a Jeremiah Love on your roster, because you know who else doesn't have a Jeremiah Love on their roster in 2026? Everyone.
Right.
You know, and so it's just guys like you, but you've got to make sure that every year, in my opinion, you're landing that this guy can come start for us and help us win a championship. And that's really going to be the key. And so that's Isaiah Rodgers. This is Lathan Wissington. We'll put him up next. So his film was a little bit ridiculous as well. So you guys are going to like this kid. So anyway, we can keep moving on to other players, Trev, as we let this film of these two kids. And then I'll put in Trey Sagard next, but because I know this is getting a little bit long, some of this recruiting talk, but let's keep moving on to the next couple. I know we have like one more position left, and then
two more. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We got linebackers next. Next two groups of guys are pretty small groups. I think there's two linebackers that are going to be on campus this upcoming weekend. And again, similar story to a lot of the other players, are highly talented guys. I mean, both.
Sorry. This run is ridiculous. Look at that. Boom, look at that burst.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
This is Wissington,
that's Lathan Wissington, yeah. Look at that burst. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Sorry. I just said we're going to move on, and then I'm watching this film. This is probably a bad idea to try to move on after what these kids' film is on. But anyway, let's keep rocking and rolling, Trev. Let's keep rocking and rolling.
Yeah, there's two linebackers that are going to be on campus this upcoming weekend, both in the 2027 class. One of them is Noah Glover from Virginia. The other one is Joakim Gouda. I believe is how you say his name, from Georgia.
Yep. My wife and I the other day, Trev, actually funny story. We were watching a movie called It's As Good as It Gets. It was a Great American Family movie. Okay. And the girl was a cheesemaker, and it was actually kind of, for a Hallmark, it's like Great American Family is like the Christian version of Hallmark, so we were watching that, but so now this kid comes along. But yeah, no, these are two really top linebackers, Trev. They're both top 100 caliber kids. They're kids that I like right now. I don't know that Notre Dame is like the team to beat with either guy. Joakim Gouda is an interesting player. He's he's a guy that they're on because of Brian Jean-Marie. That's it. They were not recruiting him before Brian Jean-Marie got hired. He was recruiting him at Michigan. Coach Jean-Marie was recruiting him at Michigan, and liked them. They had a very good relationship, and that offer came, and immediately Notre Dame became at least a factor. How much of a factor, that I don't know. That's what this weekend is going to be about. Because here's the deal. Right now, his interest in Notre Dame is mostly about Brian Jean-Marie. Now you've got to get him on campus and help the decision to be about, okay, but now is he interested in you because of Notre Dame? And that's going to be the key. But we'll break down the film of these two kids later. But you guys are going to really like Joakim, both of these kids. You're going to like Joakim Gouda, physical Mike linebacker. Like, he can play Mike and Will, but he reminds me a lot of like the Madden Faramo, Drake Bowen, Kingston Viliama-Asa type of off-ball linebacker. Just really talented guy. Are you going to be able to go into Georgia, though, and get a kid from Georgia that likes Georgia, has been offered by Georgia and Georgia once and Florida once? I don't know. And I'm not holding my, I'm not overly optimistic that they're going to get him. But as I said before, guys, you've got to get him on campus and see how it goes. And so we'll have a much better idea of kind of where Notre Dame stands after the visit. But at the very least, you were able to make a quick move. Same thing with Noah Glover. He was a kid that Notre Dame had recruited but had gotten no traction with. Max Bulla got no traction with Noah Glover. They were out. Brian John Marie was doing a great job of recruiting him at Michigan, and comes to Notre Dame, kind of not re-offers him, but it's like, hey, man, we want you here. And immediately Notre Dame's in the top 6. He released the top 6. And it was funny because when he released his top 6, I was like, I didn't even know Notre Dame was recruiting that kid. This was pretty soon after Brian John Marie got hired. And so you're like, dude, if this guy just got hired and Noah Glover's already putting Notre Dame in his top 6 because of him, what's it going to be like when this kid gets on campus and sees what Notre Dame has to offer? And that's what the excitement about maybe what this weekend could do. Look, Notre Dame is in the bottom half of his top 6 because, as I said, right now, the reason that he likes Notre Dame is because of Brian Jean Marie. But now it's like, okay, get him on campus and then show him what the rest of it's going to be. How does he fit into the system? How does he fit into the culture? How does he fit in all these? What is Notre Dame all about? Do those things, and now you find out if you have a shot. He's a little bit of a different type of player. He's more of a pure will. He's more of a Jalen Sneed type of guy. Rangy, athletic, explosive, can cover, can blitz, can run. And, of course, he's going to be an extra special type of kid because he's from Virginia. And that's where all the real ballers are. As I keep telling you guys over and over and over again, the real ballers are from the Commonwealth, So, maybe that's a little bit of bias on my part. Maybe. I'm just saying. But, I always love getting Virginia kids. Is Notre Dame going to get either one of those two guys? I have no idea, and I have my doubts. But that's why this weekend's important. Swing your shot this weekend, or take your shot this weekend, right? Shoot your shot, take your swing, whatever you want to express you want to use, and see where you are. Because you're obviously not going to get them if you don't even take a shot. But this is the kind of weekend that allows you to say, okay, where it's a gauging weekend, right? That's what this is all about, Trev. You need to gauge where you are, try to really, impress them and show them. And then hopefully coming out of the visit, you can get them to commit to an official. That's the goal with both of these kids. Get them to commit to an official. Do that, and you've got a puncher's chance. Because now, if you can get them to commit to an official and they're not going to commit soon, and you're just trying to keep them from committing somewhere else. By the way, this is Trey Segarra on film that we're watching now. If you can do that, then now by the time you get to June and July, now you got a shot to win it. Because there were several players that last March Notre Dame was not the leader for. If you'd have asked me last March, is Notre Dame going to get Bubba Frazier, I'd have said, they haven't even offered that dude. What are you talking about? If you'd have asked me last March if Notre Dame's going to get Ian Premer, I'd have said, unfortunately, no, they don't have much of a shot there. If you'd have asked me last March if Notre Dame was going to get Elijah Golden, I'd have said, I'm not. They were in there, but now they're fading. If you'd have asked me, last March if they were going to get, just trying to think through some of the other big time, Javion Osborne, I'd have said, heck no, they're not going to get Javion Osborne. I mean, there's just a lot of those kids, Trev, where if you'd have asked me last year if they're going to get Kari Adams in March, I just said they're in it, but it's going to be tough. They got to get them on campus again. They got to close, all that kind of stuff. Same thing with, Grayson McHugh. They weren't there with Grayson McHugh at this time a year ago. So all those things are important. That's why this visit weekend is absolutely crucial. It's going to be a very, very important weekend towards Notre Dame's success. And you guys can see what I'm talking about with Trey Segarra, right? Like, these are all really talented backs. It's like, which one do you want? Whatever. Like, I don't just whoever wants to be here. That's who I want. Whoever wants to be here, because they're all really good football players. Really good football players. But like, that's the key, Trev. This weekend is about move the needle with these kids. Become a player, become a factor, and then, give yourself the next 3-4 months to close. That's the key.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the last couple of guys that they have to make themselves players with are the 2 wide receivers that are also going to be on this campus. You got
Yeah.
2 guys, 1 from each class. In 2027, from the 2027 class, you have Julian Caldwell from Texas. And then in the 28 class, you have Cordero Bennett Jr. from Indiana, actually.
Yeah.
Is that the
Huh?
Is that the kid from Zionsville?
I think so. Let me go look. Give me 1 second. No, actually, I don't think that is. You know what? Let me just look it up real quick. So Cordero, where is he? Hold on a second. Give me a second. It is. So he's the 28 kid, right? Cordero Bennett.
Yes.
Where are we at here? Cordero Bennett Jr. Because I think his dad was wasn't his dad a professional basketball player? I thought so. But yeah, he's from Morton High School in Hammond.
Okay.
So that's not too far from you, right?
Hammond, Indiana. I think I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, Trev, we can move on to the receivers and quarterbacks. Julian Caldwell is an interesting player. I'm very curious to see kind of what kind of movement they can make with him. He's a really intriguing player. I don't think he's like quite the elite athlete that a Julius Jones Jr. is, but he knows how to play football. That's what I like about him. He knows how to play. And I like guys that know how to play. At receiver especially, don't get me wrong, he's a good athlete, but what really stands out about him to me is he just knows how to play. He knows how to run routes, he knows how to win, he knows how to get open, he knows how to, there's just so many things that you like about him, and you're just like, man, this kid's got the tools to be a really good kind of volume pass catcher at the next level. It's just about you're coming from behind with him, and like they're on the outside looking in. I think Texas is in a great spot with him. There's a couple other teams down south that are in a great spot with him, but he's making the visit. Mom has been real receptive to Notre Dame's pitch, which has helped. But again, this is one of those kids where get him on campus and see what you can do. Get him on campus and see if you can kind of, make any kind of movement to where you can get him to commit to an official visit. If you can do that, then you've got a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same theme with a lot of these kids. If you can get them on campus, then you have your shot. And this is the first big hurdle. Now it's just about building out that relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're down to quarterbacks, right, Trev?
Correct.
Okay, so let's talk quarterbacks, because Notre Dame, we know who the Notre Dame 2027 quarterbacks are, and we're going to be in a position here soon where they're going to start getting some of those guys on campus. I think that Cam Lapati is going to be on campus here in April, I believe, or is he late March? Do you have the visit list in front of you, Trev? But he's going to be on campus here at some point in time soon. And obviously Davidson. What's that? Go ahead, Trev.
Camden Lapati is going to be on campus March 28th.
Okay, so it'll be next Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a talented player, and then obviously they're trying to get Champ Mons on campus. I believe Champ is scheduled for April
18th.
Yeah, and then I don't know that Davin has a visit scheduled just yet. So we'll see kind of where he is, but so that they're obviously making moves with the 2027 class, but they're also trying to make moves on the 2028 class. And so there's 2 kids going to be on campus this weekend. We're going to watch some film of them real quick. This is freshman film of Neiman Lawrence. Trev and I had a chance to watch Neiman Lawrence in person last year at Irish Invasion, and there were some really good quarterbacks on campus that day. Trayvon Towns, who's a really talented player from Westlake Village, Oaks Christian. Obviously, Malachi Ziegler was on campus, who I liked a lot. There was a really talented players. This is Neiman Lawrence as a freshman at Miami Northwestern. He's an incredibly gifted player. He's got one of the most natural throwing motions that you'll see. Great pocket feel, big arm. I mean, the ball just comes out of his arm. Like what I said at the time, Trev, when we did our post-Irish Invasion wrap-up show, I say it's like God put this young man on earth to throw a football. Like, and I'm being hyperbolic because God cares about a lot more things than throwing a football. But you know what I mean? Like, he was gifted with just a natural ability to throw the football. and an intelligence and a feel for the position, and he's a winner. This young man is an incredibly gifted quarterback. One of my favorite in all of high school football. I don't know where he's ranked on the services. I'm actually looking that up now. He better be a 5-star, or I'm just going to laugh and make fun of them all. But no, he's number 35 player in the country, which I guess he's not the biggest guy. He's 6'1" maybe. But as far as just God-given tools, Trev, for college football, I don't care how tall he is. This is one of the best passers you're going to find. This is one of the best arms you're going to find in Neiman Lawrence. Love watching film with this kid.
Oh, yeah. Great feel in the pocket. Very athletic. I mean, yeah, he's only 6'1". I have yet to see mind you, this is a highlight tape, but I have yet to see anybody have any success bringing him down so far in the pocket, even though he's 6'1". Rocket launcher of an arm. Very talented.
Great arm.
Arm talent's through the roof in every sense of the word. There's not a throw he can't make. He's very impressive.
Yep. Great arm. People talking about him at Plantation. Yeah, he transferred to Plantation. I believe he started at Miami Northwestern. I'm going to look that up real quick, but I'm pretty sure that he transferred to Plantation. He's originally from Miami Northwestern. Yeah, I was correct. He's originally from Miami Northwestern. So he's very, very talented quarterback. Really like this kid. So, and then the other kid, Trev, is Lucas Prock, who is a Jersey kid and another fun kid to watch. I like this kid on film too. 28 quarterback class, Trev. We said it last summer. 28 quarterback class is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that was just, look at those numbers as a sophomore at the Hun School. This kid is really good. These kids are both on campus, by the way, this weekend, which is why we're talking about them. But what's funny is Neiman is the kid, you think Miami, you think public school kid, you're thinking, oh, he's probably like a street baller. Nope, he is a pocket passer. Lucas Prock is the kid. Oh, he goes to a Catholic school in Jersey. He's probably like a drop back. Nope, he's the street baller. And they're both very talented players. And they're just two examples of guys that show you just how good the 2028 quarterback class is. Like, look at that throw. That's just, you don't throw that in college, but you just love the gunslinger mentality that this kid has. So these are both very talented quarterbacks, very gifted quarterbacks. And so, Lucas, they recently offered him. He is obviously made a very quick trip to get on campus at Notre Dame. I don't know where Notre Dame is in 28 in regard to, are they going to push for commitments from anyone? Who would they take commitments from? I don't have the answers to that. I don't know the answers to that. I'm still trying to figure out who they're going to get in 2027. But if they push for a kid like Lucas Prock, I think they'll be in the game with him. Getting Neiman Lawrence to come back for a second unofficial visit is also huge. If you can keep these two kids on your board, you're going to have a shot to have a big-time 28 quarterback. And they're not alone. There's other talented kids on the board. But these two are visiting this weekend. The longer you can keep these two on your board, the better chance you have of making sure that you can land a big-time quarterback in the 2028 class. That's a big-time throw right there, Trev, as a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, that was money.
Yeah. So these two kids are 28 quarterbacks. And the film I showed you of Neiman Lawrence was as a freshman in high school. So these are really big-time quarterbacks. The 28 class is unbelievably good. Unbelievably good. It reminds me a lot of the 24 class, Trev. Remember we talked about, think about how many like big-time quarterbacks there were in the 24 class. That's CJ Carr's class. This class, at least comparing sophomore film, might be deeper even than that class. And that was a really good class.
Yeah.
It was such a good class that CJ Carr was the 16th best quarterback in the country according to On3. But in all seriousness, like you had DJ Lagway, yet CJ Carr, DJ Lagway, Julian Sand, Dylan Rayola, Luke Croman-Hoke was in that class. Ethan Grunkmeyer was in that class. Aaron Nolan was in that class. Damon Williams was in that class. Michael Hawkins was in that class. Cutter Boley was in that class. There's a lot of guys that are expected to be starting quarterbacks this year that were in that class. The Alicio Miller kid from Michigan State was in that class. CJ Bailey was in that class. Drake Lindsay, the starting quarterback in Minnesota, was in that class. That was a loaded Michael Van Buren, who we like a lot, who's where did he transfer to? I forget where Michael Van Buren transferred to. He went to LSU, but I think he's going somewhere else this year. But like absolutely loaded class, Trev. Loaded class at quarterback. Alberto Mendoza is in that class. This class reminds me a lot of that class. Incredibly deep class. Aaron Philo was in that class. So you get the picture. This class has that kind of depth, and we'll see. Maybe better. We'll see how it pans out. But yeah. I love this quarterback class. Love this quarterback class.
Oh, it's exceptionally talented. That quarterback you were talking about, by the way, transferred to South Florida, I believe.
Yeah, Michael Van Buren, because he started at Mississippi State, then went to LSU, and then went to South Florida. That'll be a good fit for him.
Yeah,
a good fit for him.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Those are some of those quarterbacks, Trev. That it's a loaded group. It really is a loaded group. Yeah,
it is.
So that'll do it, Trev. Before we move on, though, we do have a couple super stickers from my guy Allegretto. Also with another super sticker guy. We appreciate you very, very, very much, my dude. Also, just a real quick thing I want to say at the end of practice, or at the end of this practice report. Got a message today from someone on our board by the name of Kay Shaw. I won't tell you his real name, but he put a prayer request on the board the other day for his son. And he's been hospitalized and he's dealing with some heavy medical issues. And he took a bit of a turn for the worse, I think earlier this morning, maybe last night. And so he reached out to me and asked me if we could just another bout of prayer for him. He was starting to send up and then he took a dip down. So I'll put something on the board later, but Kay Shaw could really, really use some prayer for his son. Obviously, as a father, to see your son go through something like he's going through, I can't even imagine. I'm not a dad, so I can't imagine it. But please keep him in your prayers. And like I said, I'll put some on the board here in a little bit. But he's a very loyal member of our community. But more importantly, he's someone who just needs prayer, needs comfort. And so we all pray for him. I'll pray for him. We'll lift him up, lift his family up. But for those of you that believe in the power of prayer as I do, we pray that you keep Kay Shaw and his son. And I'm not sure if he put his son's name out there to where I could say it, but you don't need to know his son. God knows who you're talking about. But if you could just keep them in your prayers, y'all, we really appreciate that. And as I get any updates, I'll let you guys know. But it's in a bad spot, and just pray that we can lift him up and pray that he find healing. But also then for our buddy Kay Shaw, that he just is God's comfort and knows that no matter what happens, God's got him. So we pray for him and pray for his son and pray for wisdom for the doctors that they can find out what's going on. Because right now the scary thing is they don't know what's causing all these things. That's why he's staying in the hospital. They don't know what's going on. And that's got to be even more scary. It's like, if it's like, hey, this is the diagnosis. Okay, let's treat it. Let's figure it out. Let's do it. And they don't know. And that's the scary part. So I just also pray for wisdom for the medical team, that they can kind of figure out what's going on and then maybe start to be able to treat it. So appreciate y'all very much for that. So thank you. And great show today. Thank y'all for being with us. Y'all know what to do, right? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share this podcast. Got some intel stuff on the board, a lot of intel stuff this week. Got a practice reports. We're going to put some more recruiting intel on the board this weekend. So it's absolutely the perfect time of year for y'all to sign up for the message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com. It is the absolute best way that you can financially support what we're doing at Irish Breakdown. We really appreciate you. We're not going to give you some cheap offer for a year and then jack your rates way up. Our rates are what they are, and they're $6.99 a month, $69.99 for a year. We also have booster clubs, and if you join a booster club, you get some pretty cool merch as a thank you for that. So everybody that's in the chat that's on a member of our board, we'll tell you it's great. And then also it's a great community. As I said, Kay Shaw is a member of our board, and put a prayer request out, and people pray, and we support each other and encourage each other in ways beyond football. And that's what I love, that you guys have done that on our site, where there's actually, we can argue, debate, fight, and all disagree, but the minute somebody has need, it's like, hey, we step up. And you guys are truly an amazing, amazing, amazing group of people. So we appreciate y'all very much. So for Trev, I'm Brian. You all have a great, great, great rest of your day. Football's back, baby. Spring ball's back. And now we get to get off this and go watch some March Madness. So I can't wait for it. So have a wonderful day, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all again here very soon on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.